Welcome back to Second and Short. It is Friday, January 10th, 2025. I had to make sure I did it right this time. I keep messing up the date when we start these episodes. I got it right this time. I did have to read it. But the NFL playoffs are here. It is Super Wildcard Weekend. We've got a few moves trickling in the MLB as we settle into the new year. Premier League is off this weekend to allow for some FA Cup matches to be played. But we do have some midweek matches that'll happen before the next time we're here, so we're going to talk about some of those. The January transfer window is open. Nobody has really made any moves. Duh. That's just, you're not going to see anything for the first 2 or 3 weeks of the January window for sure. And you're not going to see any big moves happen. It'll really just be a bunch of teams showing interest in players they want in the summer, which bothers the shit out of me about the January transfer window. Nonetheless, obviously so much stuff to cover here. Also, today's Friday. Monday was what is known in the NFL as Black Monday. Tons of firings, NFL coaches, GMs, coordinators, everybody. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So today we've got NFL Wildcard Preview. Going to preview all the wildcard games. We're going to talk through some of the coaching news, some of the guys that got fired, some of the guys that are surprisingly staying, and then also talk about some of the big candidates from around the league for head coaching jobs. Then we'll go through the couple of MLB things we've got, some Premier League games that are big next week, and then we'll round it out with questions time. Luke, how are we feeling about Premier League Team of the Month that just came out the other day? We tried something new with it, all edited by you. Great work on the edit. I think the video turned out great. How are we feeling about the video?
Oh, I think it turned out great, and I definitely wouldn't have been able to do it without you for sure. I would love to be yeah, it was all edited by me, but you definitely were holding my hand through it. So
there was some moments where I felt like I was kind of the puppet master, but I let you free.
Yeah,
I let you free, and you did your thing.
off the leash.
Yeah.
But I can definitely see myself getting to the point where I won't need to be in a Discord call when we edit. But we usually end up having a good time.
Yeah. We have a damn good time.
Able to catch up.
Damn good time.
Just talk shit. So I'm happy with how the video turned out. It was cool to see a lot of random people commenting on the TikTok and giving their opinions. That's what we love. It's the people who make those videos. And even if you're telling us that we're shit and we should never make a list again, we like that.
Yeah, I actually want to hear that more.
Yeah. I'm like I said, happy with how it turned out on Instagram and TikTok. YouTube Shorts definitely just flopped, but that's
YouTube
okay.
Short. I don't think I'll ever understand YouTube Shorts fully ever. It just genuinely doesn't make sense to me. But it's whatever. It does not matter. But for those of you that are, commenting, talking crap, whatever you want to do, while you're here, go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube. Turn on post notifications so you know when anything comes out, including YouTube Shorts. You would also get notifications for YouTube Shorts if you have those notifications on. And make sure that you like and comment on this video. Go ahead and comment. Say, never make a podcast ever again. I don't know. Whatever you'd like to say.
You got to tell us why.
Yeah. We've done 221 of these now. This is 221st. You got to give us some reason of why we shouldn't keep doing it.
Exactly.
But go ahead and do that. And then if you're listening on the podcast platforms, rate 5 stars, give us a follow on there. And follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok. I never really mentioned that one, but it's on the screen there. You know how to find it. And then, of course, join the Second and Short subreddit, r/2ndand short. That's where you're going to submit your questions every week by 4 p.m. To be answered right here on Questions Time. Don't know if Nathan's turned them in quite yet for this week's questions, but I'm going to give it a check. We might have seen them. We may have not. There they are. 8 minutes ago.
He pulled through.
8 minutes ago, we got questions. Shout out Nathan for giving us questions every week. But you could also contribute if you would like. Okay, before we get into the episode and everything we're talking about, we got NFL Wildcard Preview, NFL coaching news, offseason, Premier League, questions time. I want to talk about something that just broke within the hour. Carson Beck decided to enter the transfer portal rather than going to the draft. I wanted to hit this today so that me and Colin don't have to try and fit it into our college football playoff recap on Monday, but I think it's a genius move by Carson Beck to come back to college and to transfer. I have a feeling he declared for the draft because somebody said, look, you're not going to start here at Georgia. declared for the draft, and as soon as you do that, you start talking to guys. You obviously, he already has an agent, but you start talking to guys around the league. You start talking to, maybe some former teammates, connections, coaches, whatever it is, and you start getting an idea of what your draft process is going to look like. And I think he talked to one person, maybe somebody that might know less about football than one of us, that told him, hey, man, you got no chance of playing an NFL snap, especially because you, at the best, will get drafted in like the 6th round. Even if he showed up to the combine and killed it, even if he killed every interview, he played himself out of a draft pick this year. And now entering the transfer portal, giving yourself a chance to go elsewhere. Maybe you go somewhere, you look great, and we just go, oh, it was a Mike Bobo problem, and that settles that. You go to the draft next year, you're 1 year older, but you're 1 year better as a quarterback, and you get drafted where you probably should have. This is a guy who came into the season, almost not consensus, but quite a few people were saying he should be the number 1 quarterback off the board.
Yeah.
So it was quite the fall from grace. So I think he transfers out. Personally, my prediction, if I had to guess, he goes to Notre Dame. That's where guys who want to up their draft stock but were playing somewhere where they just didn't quite do it go and then fail to do so. That's what Carson Beck is going to do at Notre Dame. That's my prediction.
I couldn't agree with you more. And on top of just Mike Bobo, I think I read somewhere that in all of FBS, Georgia led the FBS in dropped passes. Yeah. So even as a Georgia fan, I'm genuinely excited to see him stay another year in the NCAA and actually see if he can, live up to what he was at the beginning of this season, a potential Heisman candidate and also probably the first quarterback taken off the board. So yeah, I'm right there with you. It's an awesome decision by him, and I'm really excited to see what he can do without Mike Bobo and without UGA wide receivers.
Yeah, that is a fair thing to say. Speaking of UGA wide receivers, got the chance to catch up with the boy, the original co-host of Second and Short with me, Brock. We had a little conversation about what needs to change at Georgia. And first thing we said, obviously Bobo needs to go. Wide receiver coach needs to go. I think that opens the door for Brian Bohannon to become the wide receiver coach at Georgia. He was a wide receiver at Georgia for a number of years. He was a wide receiver coach under Paul Johnson for a number of years, then got, some offensive coordinator looks, then got the head coaching job at Kennesaw State. I think that's a match made in heaven. Brian Bohannon's return to Georgia, wide receiver coach.
What does a wide receiver coach do under Paul Johnson?
Teach them how to run.
Block? Teach him how to block.
I'm trying to remember what they call it. It's the something back, which is the wide receiver. Oh, it's the pitch back.
Pitch back.
Yeah, the wide receiver in the triple option that is there to get the ball pitched to them if needed.
I'd like to see Hines Ward.
Hines Ward would be awesome.
I think he's at Arizona State?
Yes, I think you're right.
So,
with Kenny Dillingham. Yeah. I would not want to leave Kenny Dillingham right now. That was another guy me and Brock talked a lot about. Such an amazing climb to the top by Kenny Dillingham. Love that guy so much. I'm not going to get into Kenny Dillingham's coaching history, but just know that Mike Norvell discovered that guy. Let's just put that out there. All right. Yeah, we got NFL Wildcard preview, and we're going to get into that in just a moment. So make sure you guys are subscribed and everything like we already talked about. But, NFL Wildcard Weekend, it's just insane that we're already here.
Oh, I know.
Right? It feels like just the other day, Isaiah Likely barely stepped out of bounds. It feels like that was just a day or two ago. It doesn't even feel real.
And we've been paying attention the whole time, so it's not like we're covering it before the season started and then stepped away and it's like, oh, we're here, surprise. No, it's like we were keeping up with it and it still snuck up on us.
Yeah. So, it's bittersweet to get to this point because this is the exciting part. This is what we play these games for all year and why we sit here and watch them. But it's also like, oh man, it's almost gone.
I know.
But it does also open the door for draft. And this is a draft class that I'm going to love talking about. I'm going to love talking about this class because it's not just quarterbacks.
Can't wait to get started on my mock drafts.
Oh,
you're
can't
right.
wait. Okay, we're starting off on Saturday for Wildcard Weekend, and we've got Chargers, Texans. Chargers a 3-point favorite. Do have to put out there, Quentin Johnston and Josh Palmer did not practice on Wednesday. Might be a factor, might not be. Just a little bit interesting to me to not see those two practice because big impact players in this team. We saw what Quentin Johnston did with the Chargers' backs up against the wall in Week 18. They go out and get a big victory that they needed, and Quentin Johnston had an unbelievable game. So you're going to want Quentin Johnston against the Texans, a secondary that's been struggling a little bit, a defense that has maybe just kind of lost a step here and there, and a team in general that has just stumbled its way into the playoffs. Obviously, that final game of the season was pretty redeeming a little bit. You give yourself a little bit of morale boost, but also, like, you only really ran your team out there for one drive.
Yeah, that's a good point. And what I like about this Chargers team is you and I talked about it all year long with Herbo not really having any star guys anymore.
Yeah.
But I think Week 18 is the perfect example where you have Vlad McConkey just 5 yards away from being a 100-yard receiver in that game. It's all of these receivers can grow.
Oh yeah.
With Justin Herbert, and I think that's going to be really important for that offense moving forward. And I see a lot of great things for the Chargers' future. I'm excited about them.
Yeah, and also I think one thing that we discounted, and I don't think a lot of people slept on the Chargers for this, but I think some people thought, kind of stupidly, honestly, that Jim Harbaugh would take some time to figure things out in LA. There was not a better situation to walk into as a guy who already has head coaching experience than Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh found the perfect place to walk into the door and immediately make an impact, because there was a lot of teams across the league where he could have gone and taken that job and he would have had to do a ton of work to get them to this point. The Chargers, he walked into the door with, a former rookie of the year at quarterback. He walked into the door with Quentin Johnston, who is projectable as they can come at wide receiver. He just hadn't done it yet. In an early career where he was surrounded by much better weapons and much more experienced weapons. He walked in with a defense full of absolute dogs. You're talking all pros. You're talking former defensive player of the year in Khalil Mack. You've got guys. I think Khalil Mack won a defensive player of the year. I could be wrong. Nonetheless, certainly a first-team All-Pro. Numerous times, if I had to guess. But he walked into the door with something perfect. And I think we need to keep in mind, this guy's been to a Super Bowl as a head coach. And this guy has coached a number of playoff games. I think he's won 5 playoff games in his career. DeMeco Ryans has one playoff win. It was last year against Joe Flacco. I think that's where I need to, tell everybody, yes, of course, the Chargers are a favorite. They are on the road, but they are a favorite. They look like the better team on paper. They won more games this season. All this stuff, yes. The biggest thing to me is that Jim Harbaugh is coaching against DeMeco Ryans, and this is a game of experience here. That's what I think really gives the Chargers the edge.
I couldn't agree more, and I want to go back to something that we've talked about, again, all year long with this Texans offensive line, is that it's not good. So guys like Joey Bosa, I'm trying to think of how to pronounce his name. The Hawaiian guy on the Chargers, the linebacker.
Is that what you're talking about?
No, the linebacker that's really good. Tui
Peloto. Is that right? Tui Pelota?
Yeah.
Peloto?
Yes. Like him a lot. Khalil Mack is there. Like, these guys are going to be ready to eat CJ Stroud.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so I guess, if you're the Texans, you definitely want to establish Joe Mixon very early on. But later in the season, we saw teams kind of figure him out. Yeah, he hasn't looked good. But who did look good last week was Dameon Pierce. So maybe we see a little bit, of a dual action. I don't know. But
look, there's no film on Dameon Pierce from this season. So you might have
for
something
that 92-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
So
other than Week 18, there's not much film to watch on Dameon Pierce. So you don't know what he might be coming with if you do see him in this game. But if I had to guess, the Texans are not going to be in a position early in this game to run the ball. Early on in this game, the Chargers are going to go up. I know it for a fact. That's how Jim Harbaugh has showed up every single week this season. And the best part about it for the Chargers is that for the most part, the injury issues have kind of cleared out of the way. Ladd's not banged up anymore. JK, I think he re-injured himself. I really don't know. I think he's back. I think JK's back. Gus Edwards is out for the moment. But like the defense has gotten healthy all at the same time, which is awesome. Everything's falling the Chargers' way, and then you look on the other side and just things have not gone the Texans' way, especially as of late. Like I said, they kind of stumbled here into the playoffs. I'm going to go and give my score prediction now. I'm going to take the Chargers 27, Texans 17.
I'm going to take the Chargers 24, Texans 16.
Okay. Yeah, I can't just – I don't know. There's something about the Texans I'm really low on right now. I think the main thing, like you brought up, was the offensive line. It's been so bad. Yeah. And Jim Harbaugh's going to just take advantage of a second-year struggling quarterback and a struggling offensive line. Okay, the other game on Saturday, the late game, Steelers-Ravens, big one. AFC North playoff matchup. He's got the Steelers shirt on for a reason. Big one here, Zay Flowers did not practice Wednesday, saying he's a long shot for Saturday night.
Yeah.
That's huge.
I can't wait for this. I will be honest, I don't like our history against Baltimore, particularly in the wild card game.
Yeah.
If it was AFC Championship or divisional, I might be a little bit, more chilling. But overall, there is not a better team that the Steelers could have gotten to play.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful that we are playing our rival in Baltimore, because in the AFC North, is you and I know it's upsets are always bound to happen in the AFC North. And especially with Zay Flowers being out, I think that kind of definitely plays in our favor.
Yeah.
It's just we know what Lamar's going to do. He's probably going to be near perfect as far as completion rating. I'm sure he will be, despite not having Zay Flowers. But we have to have more of a pass rush. That's something that I think the Steelers have lacked in our past 4 games. Is they're really, even with Highsmith coming back, there hasn't been much pressure on the quarterback like we're used to seeing. Hell, TJ Watt isn't even the sack leader this year. It's Trey Hendrickson, another team in the AFC North, in the Bengals. But we just we got to put pressure on Lamar. We got to create turnovers, and we got to walk into Baltimore and just show them up.
Yeah, and the tough part about like what you said, you're missing out on some of the pressure that you want. Cam Hayward didn't practice on Wednesday because he's sick, so he probably will still play, but he's probably not going to be at 100%. And so that's just another thing hurting you from getting pressure on Lamar. And then you have to start thinking about, okay, we talked about this storyline when it first came up a couple weeks ago. Lamar had only played, that was the first time that Lamar played in front of the Baltimore fans against the Steelers in his career. It was a couple weeks ago.
Wild.
Now he gets to do it again just a couple weeks later. And this is a revenge tour for the Ravens. Lamar Jackson, if I had to guess, and the Ravens in general, especially John Harbaugh, are probably tired of this Lamar can't win the big one, Lamar can't win in the playoffs bullshit.
Yeah.
They want this gone, and that's why they added Derrick Henry. And Zay Flowers' injury is why they added Derrick Henry. You can lean on Derrick Henry to make the necessary plays and let Lamar do the big stuff. Let Lamar find Rashad Bateman for a big gain every now and then. Let Lamar absolutely light up Mark Andrews all afternoon or all night. Let that happen. But know that you can lean on Derrick Henry to run the ball, because that's what they've been missing in the playoffs in particular. Wide receivers got hurt. They dealt with injuries. They stumble into the playoffs, or they look great going into the playoffs, and one thing happens or another, and it all falls to shit because you didn't have a running game that you could rely on, and now you do. That's the biggest game changer for me with this Ravens playoff run.
I think going back to the Steelers, we need to establish the run with Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren, and we've proven it, a couple times this season that we can run all over teams. So, there definitely needs to be a lot of that. We need George Pickens to show up in this game as well. I think that was really the difference maker in the Bengals game, because everybody wants to talk about how good the Bengals offense was. We really played good defense against the Bengals last Saturday.
Yeah.
I think that kind of got overlooked. But George Pickens, man, absolutely has to show up, or we're probably going to lose the game.
I don't know if he was 100%. I think he played at like 80, 75% last week, because it wasn't must win, but you wanted to win, and you wanted to knock the Bengals out of the playoffs where they stood instead of giving them even just the hopes of going into Sunday with the chance. And
exactly,
that's why Pickens played, which I think is a testament to him. After the game, all of that goes to shit when you're in the locker room and you've got reporters talking to Russ, reporters talking to Pickens, and they're not on the same page about what the problem was. That's where my issues lie right now with the Steelers. Obviously, I know, look, George Pickens is a troublemaker, and I'm glad he pulled that ski mask up and didn't say a word. But it's a damn sign. It is a sign. You can't deny that fact. You can't pull your shiesty over your face and ignore the fact that George Pickens just totally said, without saying a word, him and Russell Wilson are not on the same page.
Yeah.
And that's a problem going forward. I think we all know that. And I think it's a problem in this game. Like, despite the fact that Zay Flowers is most likely out, Vegas has the Ravens as a 9.5-point favorite. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's a crazy number to see, especially a division matchup, especially with the seeding that these teams have and the records that these teams have had this season. It is insane. But I sympathize with them. I do think the Ravens are going to win.
I know you do. I'm going to go ahead and take the Steelers 23-20 in a brutal game.
I think the Ravens open some things up early that the Steelers don't anticipate. And I think they get out early to a lead. Also, Boswell's sick this week. That might throw him off a little bit this weekend. But I'm going to go Ravens 20. I'm going to go Ravens 28, Steelers 13. I don't think the offense is going to show.
That's not very nice. And what I want to do is I think we should pull the cameras from our training facility in Latrobe and find out what Raven they sent over to cough on all of our doorknobs, because the sickness is crazy.
Yeah. Well, everybody's getting sick. I was sick all week.
Yeah.
I've been sick since Saturday morning. Yeah. I finally cleared it like this morning. All right, well, we'll move on from Saturday's games and we'll hit Sunday. We got 3 big ones Sunday. Broncos, Bills in the 1 o'clock. Bills 8.5-point favorites in Buffalo, and probably deservingly so, I would say. Look, the Broncos have so many things that I absolutely love, and I do think that the Chiefs win is a good sign for the Broncos. I know nobody that matters on the Chiefs played in that game for the most part. But the Broncos did exactly what they were supposed to do. The Broncos didn't fuck around. They didn't go into that game knowing, oh, look, Carson Wentz is a quarterback, no Mahomes, no Kelsey, no Chris Jones, blah, blah, blah. We can just mail it in. Bo Nix went out there and did what he would be doing if he was trying his ass off against Patrick Mahomes in that game. And he delivered. Mm-hmm. And the rest of that team delivered. And Cortland Sutton delivered. And Marvin Mims delivered again. That is what you want going into the playoffs. You don't want a close game with the Titans like the Texans had to end their season. You want exactly what the Broncos got here. And they have so much confidence. The problem is we can sit here and say that obviously, look, the Bills aren't the best team in the league because they are playing this week. But the Bills are the best team in the league. They're the only team that beat the Chiefs. They're one of the only teams that beat the Lions. That means something here.
I disagree with that statement, but I can't disagree with the fact that the Bills beat the Lions. I think the Lions are the best team in the NFL.
Potentially. And the Chiefs are certainly hot. Obviously, that final win, whatever, or the final loss, whatever, they didn't want it, obviously. But the Bills, well, I guess these are the 2 teams that have beat the Chiefs, but the Broncos get a little bit of an asterisk. But, like, the Bills are the only ones that truly got the best of the Chiefs. And it was in Buffalo, and that's where the Broncos are coming to. I think the Broncos almost screwed themselves seeding-wise, ending up at 7. They really did, which best case scenario, they got to 7, but still really, really got screwed having to face the Bills in the first round. I think the Bills wipe them clean.
Okay. I I don't know if the Broncos can beat the Bills or not, but I think the Broncos can make things very interesting.
I agree. I do. It's going to be more interesting than most would think. There's going to be people that look at this game and go, Josh Allen versus a Broncos team of guys I've never heard of and a rookie quarterback, and their mind is made. That's not this. The Broncos defense, yes, they do have Pat Surtain. Name 4 other players on that defense. I dare you.
Yeah, exactly. Was this the John Gruden thing?
Yeah.
You just hit me with the John Gruden
thing. I
did.
did. Yeah. And you can't.
Yeah.
But they're all fucking animals.
Do they still have Alex Singleton?
He might, maybe. I know they have Nick Bonito. That's the one that who's played really well this season. But, like, and I could name Riley Moss. I wish he wasn't on this team.
Did you?
What?
Did you know Zach Cunningham was on the Broncos?
I did not.
He's been around a while.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was in Denver.
Yeah. Well, nonetheless, Denver has guys, and they have the defense that will stick in this game. I am sure of it for a little while. At some point, the Bills sneak away. That's my thought here, is that the Broncos can stay in it. We might go into the fourth quarter, and let's say it's like it might be 21-20. The Broncos could be winning, for all I know. When it's said and done, it's 31-20 or 31-21. That's where it feels to me. The Bills just have what it takes to just kind of sneak away when nobody's really paying attention, I guess.
Yeah. It's dude, it's so unfair. Like obviously gets cold in Denver, right, Grayson?
Yeah.
But these Northeast teams, like come playoff time, it's just unfair.
Yeah. Yeah, it is different.
Unfair. I'm going to take the Bills. Like I said, I think the Broncos can make things interesting, but this is my score prediction. I'm going to take the Bills like 31-20.
That's my exact score prediction as well. I'm taking the Bills 31-20.
Oh, wow.
Okay, next game. Packers-Eagles in the middle of the day. Eagles a 4.5-point favorite at home. This is a replay of the first game of the season down in Brazil. We get to play it on American soil this time around. Hurts is back. He practiced on Wednesday, hearing good things. Nobody technically got to get eyes on him because it wasn't a public practice. He practiced. And on the other side of the ball, Christian Watson tore his ACL in a game against the Bears that you didn't need to win and you didn't win. That is a bit of a problem.
Definitely.
But also we have mentioned multiple times this season, the Packers don't necessarily need Christian Watson. They don't necessarily need a face of, the wide receiver one. He's not even really the wide receiver one, even when he is healthy. It's just there is no wide receiver one. They just have like 8 wide receiver twos. And it works.
Pretty much.
But I haven't liked how Jordan Love has looked at the end of this season.
Yeah.
And that does not bode well when you're going up against a team, especially defensively, that is playing like they are. Because the Eagles are just unbelievable on defense.
I feel like this game could probably last 5 minutes if Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley are getting the ball.
Yeah.
As they should be.
Yeah. That's the biggest thing for me is if the Packers have got to keep themselves in a position where Saquon can't do all the work. The Packers have to score points early, maybe even get an early lead, force Jalen Hurts to throw the ball downfield, force them into situations where they're not on 4th and inches. That's another thing. Yeah. Don't let them get in tush-push range. Your third down defense should be so prioritized on hoping that on 3rd and 4, they don't get 3.5 yards.
Yeah.
Because it's a free first down. It really is at this point. It's a free first down when they get into that territory. And I'm not playing with that at all. I don't want them in. I would rather them get a normal first down on 3rd and 4 than end up getting a tush push and then everybody is pissed. Because if you're an NFL defense, you can't help but be absolutely pissed off that they can pull it off against you.
Yeah.
It's so hard to stomach, but I don't think the Packers have what it takes right now. Earlier in the season, if you ask me about this game, I go for sure the Packers are in it. Maybe I say the Packers win. I don't know if they can stick around in this one.
I think I'm going to go the other way. I really like Green Bay in this game. I think when it comes to quarterback matchup, and maybe this is a little bit of a hot take, I would take Jordan Love over Jalen Hurts any day.
It depends on the
I
weapons
think
on
Jordan
my team.
Love is that is true. I think Jordan Love is a lot better under pressure. I trust his ability to sling it more than I trust Jalen's.
Yeah.
I like Josh Jacobs a lot. It's just going to be, I really do think, a matter of the running backs. You got to get both of your running backs early if you're both of these teams going into this game. And I'm going to go ahead and give a score prediction. I'm going to take the Green Bay Packers 31-28 over the Philadelphia Eagles.
Okay. Yeah, I think for me with the Packers, the biggest turnoff is that I think the early in the season interceptions for Jordan Love really got to his head. He was throwing like 3 touchdowns and a pick, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, whatever, like every game for like the first 8 weeks. And he was also throwing for like over 100 or 300 yards often. We get into the second half of the season and it's like 1 passing touchdown, no picks, 200 yards. And the ball was in Josh Jacobs' hands a lot. I think those interceptions got to his head a little bit later in the year, and I think he was afraid of continuing to turn over the ball, and that's not – you can't win playoff games being afraid. You can't, especially not against this Eagles team. I'm taking the Eagles. I'm going to go 34-28. Kind of a weird game, but I'm going to go Eagles 34, Packers 28. Sunday night, Commanders Bucks. I love this matchup so much. The Buccaneers are a 3-point favorite at home. I couldn't have asked for a better matchup right here.
Oh, I know.
Because look, in all honesty, whoever wins this game probably goes to the next round and loses. I don't think either of these teams are capable of a run to the NFC Championship. But damn, am I happy that they matched up now. Like, I'm so excited to watch Jaden Daniels in the playoffs. I'm excited to watch, crazy enough, a Cliff Kingsbury-led offense going into the playoffs. And for the Bucks, Mike Evans certainly should be going into this with some confidence, money. Baker Mayfield should be going into this with a lot of confidence. You got the only thing I don't love is that you do have to keep in the back of your mind that your offensive coordinator might be out the door soon, which does kind of suck. Liam Cohen getting a couple of interviews. I don't think he leaves, but he does have a couple of interviews, which he's obviously not going to do in the middle of a playoff run. But that's certainly looming. And I think the Buccaneers defensively are better than the Commanders. That is, I can say that with certainty. The Buccaneers defensively way better than the Commanders. But there's something about this Commanders offense where I just simply don't give a fuck who you have on defense. It does not matter. It does not matter at all.
They're going to keep it close.
Yeah.
They're going to keep it close.
Yeah. The Commanders continue to surprise me week in and week out. And doesn't matter what kind of defense they're facing. They show up. And it's just like undeniable. It's crazy. Whereas the Buccaneers, every now and then, they could really screw up. And they have before. If Baker limits the turnovers, I think I can confidently say the Buccaneers get this. But if you give the Commanders chances to get their offense on the field, you will get fucked over in the end.
Yeah.
And I've seen Jaden Daniels play late game situations like he's been around for 15 years. So don't play it close with him. That's for sure. Don't play it close with the Commanders. If you're the Buccaneers, you need to not you can't get comfortable. 10 points going into the fourth quarter is not good enough for you to just coast it into the end. You have to be on your best behavior for 60 minutes.
Oh, and I wanted to bring this up real quick. The Buccaneers played an awful game against the Saints last week.
Yeah.
For what the Saints rolled in there with, I mean, absolutely no weapons offensively. You had Clyde Edwards-Helaire as your running back. And then Jamal Williams got some reps too. I'm still not even really sure why they signed Jamal Williams after he came off that crazy season in Detroit with all those touchdowns. But, whatever. But For the Buccaneers, when I think of Buccaneers with Baker Mayfield, I just think of high scoring, deep balls to Mike Evans. You should not have been struggling to get Mike Evans that incentive that late in the game. He should have had it like second quarter. And going into a Commanders team where you are going to have to match them in the shootout that this is going to be, I don't know if the Buccaneers are going to have what it takes. The Commanders have won 4 straight.
Yeah.
And they look phenomenal.
The Commanders look so good.
Kind of teetering. So I'm leaning definitely much more towards the Commanders, but I hope that the Buccaneers keep it close for the sake of, my entertainment.
Yeah, I think it comes down to some close plays at the end of the game. And I'm going to go the way of the Commanders. I'm going with the upset on the road in Tampa. I'm going to take Jaden Daniels and the Commanders to win. I'm going to go 31-27 Commanders.
I'm going to go 41-38 Commanders. That's a vibe pick. That's what I want to happen.
Damn. We are about to get a fucking barn burner on Monday or Sunday night. Monday night, which we will be streaming, third and long live stream, Monday Night Football.
Yes.
Monday night wildcard action. Vikings, a 1-point favorite on the road against the Rams. I think this game might suck.
It very well could.
Either the Rams are going to show up and we're going to get some good Stafford and Puka will go crazy and Kyron Williams will dictate the flow of this game.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe a 35%. We see that.
Notice how you didn't say Cooper Kupp.
No, he doesn't do anything.
I'm with you.
He doesn't do
anything.
With you. 65% of me says that Sam Darnold throws for 4 touchdowns in the first half, and we write a goodbye letter for the Rams season very quickly before they even step on the field for the third quarter. It's over.
Yeah, the Rams have already beat the Vikings.
Yeah, I know.
Before,
which is funny.
So I don't like them losing to Seattle though.
Yeah.
But then again, you had, Garoppolo, no Kyler.
Yeah, but I hate the decision to not try.
Yeah.
How stupid are the Rams for not trying in Week 18 and going from playing, potentially, you play the Packers. You could have played the Packers instead of the Vikings. That would have been genius. The Rams could easily beat the Packers right now. In my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. When did the Rams get Emmanuel Forbes Jr.?
I think the Commanders cut him early in the year and they picked him up. That could be wrong, but I know he's been on the team for most of the year. He just hasn't really been playing much.
That's crazy. My bad that I missed that. I feel like a casual. I just can't believe that he's a first rounder and he's 16th pick of the draft.
Yeah.
He already got cut. But I'm going to be honest. I 100% no doubt in my mind I like the Rams in this game.
Okay.
Like we hyped up that Week 18 Sunday Night Football matchup so much, and I'm watching the game like, what the fuck are the Vikings doing?
That is fair.
When they got into the red zone, every single one of them forgot how to play football.
Okay.
And I like Justin Jefferson.
No. Go ahead.
I'll let you go.
I was going to say
I like
this game.
I like the clip of Jetta's going up to Darnold and kind of like trying to be like, hey, like come on, bro. It didn't help.
Yeah.
And I just don't think. Not only for how we hyped up the matchup, but just how the Vikings should have matched up with the Lions. It shouldn't have been 31-9.
No.
And the Vikings defense played amazing all game long. So maybe that's something that I'm kind of not, accounting for. At least I
you had a couple of late, the late scores made it a little bit different.
Yeah.
But, no, I get where you're getting at there. My problem is, I know we hyped up that game. Try and tell me that right before that game, you didn't look at it and go, the Lions are winning. Tell me you didn't think the Lions were going to win that game. At every second leading up to it.
They had the cool uniforms on.
Yeah, well, okay, I'll give both of them credit. Blackout, whiteout. That was sick.
Yeah.
But there was not a moment where I thought, that the Lions weren't going to win. And to me, the Vikings played with the pressure on them from the second they stepped on the field. It's like they were already down 10 points to start the game.
I literally could not agree more.
For some reason, yes, they both go into that game 14-2. They are tied in their division. The Vikings had their minds set that they were the 5 seed already the second they stepped on the field. It was crazy. And now the Lions get an extra week to continue to get healthy as they have throughout the last couple weeks of the season. They just keep adding back guys that got hurt. The Lions walked into that game and knew they were the 1 seed already, and they held on to it, and they got it. The Vikings walked into it with pressure and looked like shit. I think there's a lot less pressure. I know it's a playoff game. There's less pressure as you walk in the door if you're a Vikings fan, and if you're a Vikings player for that matter. But the Rams could also catch them on their back foot, for sure.
Yeah, but you're going to have a hard time winning the game if you don't think that Kyren is going to put up at least similar numbers to Jahmyr Gibbs.
Oh yeah, Kyren will do very well in this game. It's just, can they do everything else right around him?
Yeah.
The Vikings secondary, they might be screwed.
They could be.
Because I've seen some motherfuckers, especially in the second half of this season, toying with Stephon Gilmore. I have seen him get played multiple times.
Yeah.
Like, it's concerning what's going on in the secondary there. Harrison Smith's banged up too. So you got to figure some things out if you're the Vikings. But I'm not.
Caught a nice punt from Jared Goff in that game too.
Yeah. I don't want to read into this too much. I know I just talked about all this stuff. I'm not reading into it too much. I think Vegas has this one right. I think the Vikings play a close one, and they end up edging it out. I'm going 21-20 Vikings.
Ooh, I'm going to go 27-21 Rams.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I just, when it comes to the playoffs, sometimes talking yourself into the upset makes no sense. This one is technically an upset by the Rams, but they're the home team, and they're the higher seed. But, the Vikings are the favorite. Talking myself into the Rams is so difficult when I spent the entire season telling myself why I can't believe in them.
Yeah.
It's tough.
That's fair.
But that's all the games. That is Wildcard Weekend. So make sure you guys tune into Third and Long next Monday. It's going to be we're going to start from the start of the game. We're going to have a group parlay. Me, Mike, Colin, and Nathan will all have an individual pick. Because my single pick on Bucky Irving on the last Third and Long live stream was the one that failed our parlay, I will be bankrolling everybody's parlays. So I'm paying for everyone's parlays on Monday night. So it's all on me. It's my punishment. I'm taking it to heart, and we're gonna do better this time. We're gonna win. We're gonna win some money this time.
Wouldn't you just love? Sorry, this is gonna change the subject completely. Wouldn't you love to see the Rams win, especially with all this, tragic LA fires and shit?
That would be good.
Stuff going on. I think that'd be huge.
Fantastic point right there. It's a fantastic point. It's kind of like when Tampa was playing for more than football when Tampa played the Saints during the hurricane.
Yeah.
That's what LA has. I'm mad that you brought that point up after I already gave my final score prediction.
And you have the Saints playing the Falcons for the first time in the after Katrina too is another game like that. So
okay. I think we're ready to move on to the NFL coaching news. Like I said, make sure you tune in to Third and Long on Monday. It's gonna be a blast here live on YouTube. But it's time to. I'm gonna try and quickly run through a lot of this coaching stuff. So we'll just start by going through teams that made moves, talking about fired guys, talking about some of the guys that are remaining. So the Raiders fired Antonio Pierce, GM Tom Telesco, that happened today, and offensive coordinator Luke Getsy. All those firings, I think, are warranted. Antonio Pierce was in a tough spot. First of all, you got retained after – okay, I got to lay this out correctly. They retained him as their interim at the end of that season. Then during the offseason, they bring on Tom Brady as a minority owner of the team that has a lot of input on coaching. Antonio Pierce does not run a team the way that Brady looks at running a team, if I had to guess. It just seems really loose under Antonio Pierce. And some guys pull that off. There are coaches out there that pull that off, and there are coaches out there that win Super Bowls that way.
Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, Tom Brady did not win Super Bowls that way under Bill Belichick. So that's where I think the Antonio Pierce disconnect was. Luke Getsy, sorry, dude, you have no fucking weapons. You got kind of screwed, but you're also just not a great offensive coordinator, in my opinion. And Tom Telesco has sucked as the GM for multiple years, deserved to get fired for sure. I 100% agree with the firing of Tom Telesco. Well, because the thing is, I think this was his first year as the Raiders GM, but he was the Chargers GM before, and he got fired from there and then hired by the Raiders. So that tells you enough, I think.
Yeah, I was just going to say rest in peace to my AFC West dark horse.
Yeah, dude, all-time bad take, I think, on this podcast.
They were the widest horse ever.
Yeah.
Widest horse.
The opposite of a dark horse, 100%. They were like a white cow.
Yeah. As a Steelers fan, I have no problem with them being shit on.
That's fair. It was just reverse psychology. You just play it off like that.
Yeah.
The 49ers fired their defensive coordinator, Nick Sorensen. That's 2 DCs in 2 years, which I don't love to see for the 49ers. Hopefully they figure something out here. Titans finally decided to fire GM Rand Carthon. This one was weird. I think he should have got fired when Vrabel got fired last year. It didn't make sense to me that Vrabel left, or Vrabel's gone, but Rand Carthon, who has made nothing happen in now 2 years and now got fired, didn't get fired last year. They keep him, and then I heard Diana Rossini talking about this, and the way that she put it was kind of like they brought on Rand Carthon with Vrabel, and then they brought in Brian Callahan in Rand Carthon's second year. And by the end of this year, they fire him, and they say that the job, what he needed to do as his job as GM when he got hired, and what he needed to do as his job when Brian Callahan came in was different. No, it wasn't. It's still a fucking job. It's the same job. You're still the general manager of the Titans. Your job is to go out and find what the team needs and get it. Plain and simple. Of course, it's a lot harder said than done. But I've heard GMs talk about what their job is in the past. And I think the Titans have a dog shit ownership. And that fucks over anybody who steps in the door as the GM. Because the GM's job is to be the middleman between the ownership and the team. You go to your head coach and your coaching staff and your scouts and everybody down there, and you say, what does this team need to improve? And you go to your owner and you said, what can I do to improve this team? What will you give me? What kinds of things can you give me? And you do what's best on both sides. That's your job. Your job is not to be fucking daddy for the coach, and your job is not to be the coach's bitch. And that's what Rand Carthon did. He was Mike Vrabel's bitch. And then he had to try and play daddy for fucking Brian Callahan, who, by the way, hired his own dad onto this fucking staff when he came in. That should be a sign that Brian Callahan's on the hot seat going into next year. But I'm done with Rand Carthon and the stupid ownership group of the Titans. The Colts might be just as bad. I'm not going to go in detail, but they might be just as bad. I've talked enough shit about Chris Ballard. They fired their defensive coordinator, Gus Bradley. They're keeping Shane Steichen at head coach, which I agree is the move, but he's on the hot seat for sure. Chris Ballard should have been fired 3 years ago, and he still got a job as the GM. It makes no sense. Ask Pat McAfee if you want to hear about his problems with the Colts organization. The Seahawks fired Ryan Grubb after year one. I think that was just an obvious. Mike McDonald had never been a head coach before. He went out and found an OC that was local. Thought it would work. It didn't. Sorry, Ryan Grubb, congratulations. You're the Alabama offensive coordinator next year. Welcome back. Kalen DeBoer will welcome you with open arms. The Bengals fired their defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo, which I think is interesting. Warranted firing. But, like, if you go back 2 years ago, 3 years ago, Lou Anarumo was interviewing for every single head coaching opening there was. And the tables turned on him so quickly. Like, he was one of those guys where you go around the league and he was interviewing for every single job. And every single time a job opened, it was Lou Anarumo's to lose. And he never got them. And then he coached one of the worst defenses in the NFL this season. And all of a sudden, he's done. He might get a DC job somewhere else. He might maybe go to college. I don't know. But crazy to see that fall from grace so quickly.
Yeah, well, they lost a lot of talent on that defense in one offseason as well, too. So
it's tough to deal with. I think it's kind of unfair to Lou Anarumo a little bit, but his firing was warranted. The defense was awful, and that's his job. The Jags, some weird decision-making here. They fired Doug Peterson, I think is the right move. It sucks, Doug Peterson, Super Bowl champion, but he kind of got fucked over walking into the dumpster fire that Urban Meyer created. But then at the same time, he didn't necessarily fix much. He took them to the playoffs once, I think. And they won that cool game against the Chargers, and that was kind of it. Kind of
they were lucky to have done that too.
From there. And they keep general manager Trey Baalke, who no one wants to work for. And it's a known thing. People don't want to work for this guy. So keeping him limits your head coaching options. There's guys that are going to turn down interviews or turn down job offers from the Jags because they are retaining Trey Baalke as their general manager. And all you do is delay yourselves another year from making the right move at head coach. Because you could have done it here. Now you're going to bring in a head coach. He's probably not going to be as good of one as you could have gotten if you fire Trey Baalke. Because you got a quarterback. You have a quarterback that people around the league still believe in. You have players all over this team that the league still believes in. But what coach wants to come in when it's clear that the GM sucks and he's going to be out the door soon? Because if the GM's out the door soon, you're probably out the door too. Because some other GM's going to come in and he might not be your biggest fan. So you're just fucking your franchise over by keeping this guy around and limiting your head coaching search. That's my piece there for the Jags.
And really, all of that started when that Jags linebacker picked up the terrible towel. Since then, they've been fucked.
Fantastic point. The Dolphins, they didn't fire anybody, but I question their remaining guys, the guys that they retained here. Mike McDaniel, the hottest seat in the NFL, I think, especially with how this Tyreek Hill situation is going to go. I think Mike McDaniel's in a bad spot. Chris Greer, their GM, has been there for 10 fucking years and has done nothing. They've done nothing. He's the one who was involved with the Brian Flores bullshit. He's the one that brought in Mike McDaniel. He's the one that signed Tyreek Hill. Do something with it, please. I beg you. So he's on the hot seat too. Yeah, Mike McDaniel, one of the hottest seats in the NFL going into next year, at least high profile wise. Because Mike McDaniel's the kind of guy, if they win 9 games again, he probably gets fired. That's where his team is at. I'm thinking, especially with this Tyreek Hill situation.
It's weird because, we can both agree that the Dolphins have not been utterly bad, but utterly disappointing might be an understatement.
Yeah.
So, I'm right there with you. I think even though Mike McDaniels necessarily hadn't had a complete awful season, the talent was there in Miami.
Yeah.
So.
We head over to the Giants now. They didn't fire anybody necessarily, but they did retain Brian Daboll and general manager Joe Schoen. We've talked about these two a lot. They seem to be a package. If one of them does get fired, the other's getting fired. We know that. But I think, yes, the Saquon and Xavier McKinney offseason is fucking awful. Especially when it's a year removed from extending Daniel Jones to one of the worst deals ever, and then during the season, you fucking cut him. It was bad. They bought themselves some time with the Malik Neighbors draft pick, They bought themselves some time with how good Wan'Dale Robinson played this season. Fun fact about Wan'Dale Robinson, first player ever to have over 90 receptions and less than 800 yards, and he didn't even have 700 yards.
Oh, wow.
Crazy. But he had like 98 receptions.
Damn, good for him. Wow.
Yeah, shout out Wan'Dale Robinson. You saved yourself with the Tyrone Tracy draft pick. But,
dude,
John Mara, I believe is his name, their owner and president, is a sour, bitter old man. And he's the one who said it would be hard to sleep at night on Hard Knocks offseason. It would be hard to sleep at night if Saquon went to the Eagles. And if I had to guess...
That never happened, right?
If I had to guess, John Mara does not sleep anymore. If it was hard to sleep just thinking of him being on the Eagles, think about how hard it is to sleep thinking about how fucking amazing he was for the Eagles.
Yeah.
But yeah, Brian Daboll, I think him and Joe Shane bought themselves another a year into their lease or whatever. They bought an extra lease, and now it's proven. Get a quarterback this year, whether that be via the draft or free agency. Add some pieces to this team that will genuinely make you win games. If they win 8 games next year, they stick around. If they win 6 games next year, see you later. That's the margin, I think. I think that's the margin of error for these two. So it'll be an interesting thing to watch. They're definitely both on hot seats, but they, I think, have a great situation to redeem themselves.
Yeah, it's very scary that they like Shador as much as they do.
I don't think they do. I think that was a storyline written by Shador Sanders himself. The way the Giants played themselves out of the first pick convinces me that, like, they saw Shador Sanders being like, I'm going to the Giants. And they were like, fuck no, you're not.
No.
Yeah, no. We'd rather pick fourth in the draft. We're good. Let's talk about the Patriots situation. It's interesting. They fired Gerard Mayo, which we've already talked about on this podcast. But Robert Kraft said it's like the hardest decision he's ever had to make, which, sure, I guess. Whatever.
Former player.
Yeah. But, yeah, Gerard Mayo, I think I might have said this on Monday's episode. As a coach in waiting, you lost your chance at grace, essentially. When you make a guy a coach in waiting, you pretty much tell him you don't get benefit of the doubt. And that's what happened here with Gerard Mayo. Yes, the Patriots were bad last year too. That's why Belichick decided to hang it up. Well, they mutually agreed to part ways. Whatever. That's why Belichick did it. That's why Kraft wanted Belichick out probably. And Gerard Mayo was told he will be the coach. He did an interview. He didn't fucking interview. I know he interviewed, but he didn't. And all this was a season for Robert Kraft to realize I shouldn't have brought in Gerard Mayo to be the head coach, and Mike Vrabel was just still sitting out there. And they're going to rewrite their wrongs, if I had to guess. If I had to guess, Vrabel will be that coach. But Gerard Mayo just, unfortunately, yeah, he doesn't get a chance, but he didn't really afford, he can't afford one necessarily. He didn't do anything to earn a chance as a head coach in the first place. He wasn't getting interview requests elsewhere. He just got it handed to him, and he got it taken away just as fast. It's just how it goes. So I'm sorry for Gerard Mayo. I wouldn't even be surprised if Mike Vrabel gets hired and brings Gerard Mayo back onto his staff. I would not be surprised at all.
I'd like to see that happen.
Yeah, because look, he might get a DC job somewhere. He's not getting another head coaching job, maybe ever. Unfortunate, but
yeah, I think they were like 4 years away from playing with each other on the Patriots, I believe.
Yeah. Vrabel, I think, got out
Mike Vrabel and Gerard Mayo
a little earlier before, but yeah, I think you're right.
Kind of interesting.
Yeah, the Patriots situation is interesting, but we'll see what happens. On the Browns fired offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey. Makes a lot of sense. That offense stunk to fucking high heavens.
Yeah.
I don't really have much to say about that one. Bears fired Matt Eberflus midseason, fired their OC Shane Waldron midseason. Ryan Poles remains as the GM, which some people are happy about, some people aren't. I'd probably lean it's a good thing he's still around. Don't get too rash with the decision making. You got to remember, this is the guy that just swung you, now.
All kinds of players.
Bryce Young for Caleb Williams. I don't know what I'd take right now. But
yeah,
when you throw in the fact that he also got DJ Moore out of it and a number of other draft picks, which I think included Tyreek Stevenson, who I guess he also fucked up this season, but still.
Yeah.
Ryan Poles made a lot of things happen for the Bears, and they shouldn't give up on him yet. I'm glad they haven't.
Yeah.
We got a lot of guys to talk about that the Bears requested interviews with. Saints fired Dennis Allen midseason. We already knew about that. Darren Rizzi was the interim head coach. He's certainly getting interest around the league. I think the Saints should bring him back. Also because I think if the Saints bring back Darren Rizzi, we are capable of beating them. And the Jets midseason firings, Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas. They're one of the only teams doing a simultaneous head coach GM search, which is a tough game to play, but sometimes it ends up working out in your favor.
And Robert Saleh fired by a 17-year-old.
Yes. And Joe Douglas just bad at his job. Okay, actually, I got to ask this question real quick. Is Aaron Rodgers to the Jets going to be an all-time strikeout? It's an all-time miss. And it's not necessarily Rodgers' fault.
Yeah.
That first season just fucked everything.
I think you've been a lot better about it than I have, but you should know more than anybody else. When I talk about Aaron Rodgers, it's like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am blind as hell.
Yeah.
And I still confidently am saying I would not call it a strikeout just yet. If he comes back one more season, different coaches, and they still play bad, I will eat my words.
That's the thing, dude. Right now, every time my phone vibrates for the next probably 2 weeks, I'm flipping it over and I'm like, is Rodgers retiring? That's the watch I'm on right now. And it sucks, but I think it's reality. Honestly, the guy's 40-something. It's like 41. Just if you hang it up, it was a legendary career. You won a Super Bowl. You're a Hall of Famer, probably first ballot. Especially entering the 500 touchdown club, 5th guy ever to do it. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, maybe unanimous. Sucks the way it ended, though. But that goes for a lot of guys. Ask Brett Favre. Yeah. A lot of guys that had careers go that way. It does suck, but it's whatever. Okay, that's all the firings and stuff I want to talk about and all the retained guys. I want to talk about some of the main head coaching candidates around the league. These are just pretty much anybody around the league that's getting interviewed that seems like a big one. Vrabel, I think, is the front runner for every single job out there. He's going to get requests from everybody. Former Titans head coach, everybody knows him. He made an AFC championship game, made the playoffs a number of times, made the Titans likable for a number of years. Then you go into all the coordinators. It's a long list here, but bear with me. Aaron Glenn, Lions defensive coordinator. Ben Johnson, Lions offensive coordinator. Lions are going to be lucky to get out of this playoff run and be a week removed from the playoffs ending whenever they end for them, and still have 4 position coaches, because those guys that were working under those guys are going to leave too.
Yeah.
They're going to run into, no matter how this season goes, they're going to run into a Eagles after they lost the Super Bowl to the Chiefs 2 years ago. They're going to run into that same issue where offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator left, and you got to figure it out immediately. It's going to be tough, but I think the Lions can do it. DC, Dan Campbell, obviously. I know we're talking about a lot of coordinators, so I probably shouldn't be abbreviating things. But Dan Campbell will get it done. Then you got Brian Flores, Vikings defensive coordinator, former Dolphins head coach, former defensive assistant for the Steelers, I guess. Whatever he did whenever he got fired and Mike Tomlin brought him in under his wing. You've also got Anthony Weaver, Dolphins defensive coordinator. I can't remember who said this. It might have been Colin Cowherd, which I hate that I'm quoting him whatsoever. But I think it might have been him. It might have been fucking Nick Miller, which is worse. but they said, at what point did you watch a Dolphins game this season and go, damn, that's a hell of a defense? Because I don't remember doing that much. So Anthony Weaver's an interesting one. I think he's one of those guys that's going to get interviewed and not take any jobs and not get offered any jobs probably either. I think he's just going to get a shot and see what it's like. Maybe 3 years from now, he'll get a head coaching job. But I think he's just doing the tour right now. A number of guys that I'm going to talk about are doing that. Joe Brady, I think he's just dipping his toe in the water as well. Kind of showed up out of nowhere to fill in for the Bills, keeps the job as the interim OC, and has now been the offensive coordinator for one of the best offenses in the league and potentially the league MVP. Joe Brady has earned his spot here. He's earned his keep for sure. I just don't think he's quite ready himself to be a head coach just yet. I think he's just dipping his toe in the water with some of these interviews. Arthur Smith, interesting one that I've seen quite a few teams requesting interviews with. I don't know if he should necessarily be jonesing to be a head coach again yet. And I don't know.
Jonesing.
Yeah. Yeah, I just I don't know if he should be excited for that reality again. I don't know if he can pull it off.
I would feel indifferent if he left.
Because look, there's so many guys you could go out and get to replace him. But he's a damn good offensive coordinator. I can say that.
Yeah.
He was fucking awesome for the Titans. And he's been really good for the Steelers.
Yeah, I think even though our offense, I think, is still the problem child of our team, I think it's fair to say that it's the most entertaining and the best we've looked in probably since Big Ben left.
Definitely.
So.
This guy is a guy who I think will be a head coach within the next 3 years as well, but he probably won't take one this time. Todd Monken, Ravens offensive coordinator.
Oh, my God.
If you're a Georgia booster, anybody out there that's a Georgia booster, you need to be emptying your pockets to try and get Todd Monken to, for some stupid reason, come back and be the offense coordinator of Georgia. And if you're an NFL team, you should also probably be emptying your pockets to try and get him to be your head coach. So Todd Monken is in an interesting spot, but I don't think he'll take a job just yet. I think he's got some unfinished business with the Ravens. If he wins the Super Bowl, maybe I change my mind. If the Ravens win the Super Bowl, Todd Monken might be out, but he's only 2 years into this thing. It's going to take a little longer. Steve Spagnuolo, defensive coordinator for the Chiefs. He's a guy who gets interviewed every year pretty much. Runs a tight ship. Would make a lot of sense to me for the Raiders. I don't know why he particularly jumps out to me, but Steve Spagnuolo makes a lot of sense to me to go to the Raiders if he were to go anywhere. I don't know if he will. He seems like a guy that might just ride it out. Him and Andy Reid ride it out into the sunset. But I don't know.
He's great over there.
Oh, yeah. He's run a hell of a defense for quite a few years now. Their offensive coordinator as well, Matt Nagy, however you want to say it, former Bears head coach, would like to say him and Mitch Trubisky went to the playoffs and won a playoff game. Yeah, that was an interesting one. I think the Bears jumped the gun with Matt Nagy. I think you got him before he was ready. He went to rehab essentially in Kansas City. That's what he did. He went to rehab in Kansas City. He was the quarterback's coach for like a year. Bieniemy does his weird fucking spiral out of control that he's done over the last couple of years. And Nagy just naturally steps up and runs a pretty good offense. This year, question marks all over the place, but certainly doing his job. And I think he'll get some interviews. I don't think he'll take a job. Maybe he takes like the Jets job. It's not necessarily desirable, but it could be. Could also, I don't know if the Jags have requested him, but I could see him go to the Jags. I don't know why. You also have Robert Saleh, former Jets head coach, certainly getting some interest around the league. Makes a lot of sense. I think he deserves another shot. Even if he does have to go somewhere and be a DC for a couple years and get another chance. I think he does deserve another shot at head coaching in the NFL. These are a couple guys who I don't think will get job. Okay, Darren Rizzi might get a head coaching job, but I think it'll probably just be the Saints head coaching job. So I'll go ahead and knock him out. I got three guys who I don't think are quite there yet either. And I think there's like a 0% chance they take a head coaching job, but they are getting some interest. Kellen Moore, Eagles offensive coordinator, formerly Chargers offensive coordinator, formerly Cowboys offensive coordinator. Bobby Slowick, Texans offensive coordinator, former quarterbacks coach for the 49ers, former Pro Football Focus employee. Just to put that part out there. And then Liam Cohen, Bucs offensive coordinator, who has stepped in to replace Dave Canales this year. And I'll be honest, Baker Mayfield hasn't missed a step, so he's doing something right. And that's kind of the end of the list for the guys around the league. Now, there is some guys I'm very, very interested in why the fuck they're getting requests. And there's also some guys where I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about that guy, but I liked that he got a request. So I have a list of those as well. Mm-hmm. Mike McCarthy got a request from the Bears, which immediately got denied by the Cowboys. I don't know where I stand with Mike McCarthy. I do think he's a great head coach. He won a Super Bowl for crying out loud. He's a good head coach. It takes a good head coach to win a Super Bowl. Is he the guy for the Cowboys, though? I think Jerry Jones demands too much of a head coach by being the GM for any coach to really succeed under him. Despite the fact that Jerry Jones did have a fucking phenomenal acting performance in that scene in Landman.
That's very true.
I don't know if he's a good GM. He maybe needs to use those acting chops and act like a good GM because he hasn't been one, in my opinion. And I think it's a bad environment for a head coach right now. Mike McCarthy has just become the bitch to it, but, it's just what it is.
And that point that you just made, and I know like this would never work out with Jerry Jones being the owner, but I would like to see, and we're not even talking about the Cowboys getting a new head coach, but I would like to see the Cowboys get a head coach that stands up to Jerry Jones.
Well, the problem is if you do, I know exactly what it would look like. Unemployment. He is the judge, jury, and executioner. Like, he makes every decision for the Cowboys.
That might be what they need, though, to get that culture shift.
Sure is.
Someone to stand up to.
They need a fucking GM.
Yeah.
That's what they need. It's crazy. It's absolutely
It would
insane.
be so much easier on Jerry Jones if he could just, retire from the GM. He can still be the owner if he wants to, but just sit on your couch. Don't even watch the Cowboys for like a year.
He could never.
Just take a break.
We'll move on, though, from this. Matt Campbell, Iowa State's head coach. I love Matt Campbell. I'm a huge fan of his. I love Iowa State this season. Got a request from the Bears to interview. I think it makes sense. Geographically, you got a lot of fans in Iowa that would like him. You also have some fans that would fucking hate him because they're Iowa Hawkeyes fans. Nonetheless, I do love Matt Campbell. I think it would be a great hire. Just don't know if he's necessarily an NFL guy. I don't know if he's NFL ready. But I do like to see that he's getting interviews because I think he's a guy that could make that jump. We don't talk about that jump a lot because it doesn't happen a lot, especially if you don't have prior work. Like Jim Harbaugh made a lot of sense because he'd done it. He's done it. But Matt Campbell hasn't necessarily done it in the NFL, but he's been a hell of a head coach in college football in the short period of time where he's been at Iowa State. Pete Carroll has an interview scheduled with the Bears. The only team he's interested in interviewing for, by the way. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Pete Carroll's giving it a shot. Byron Leftwich completed an interview already with the Pats. I think only 4 requests that the Pats have was Byron Leftwich, a guy, Pep Hamilton, who's been a longtime assistant around the league, around college football as well. Vrabel. There's one more that I can't think of at the moment. That's it. That's kind of crazy. But it shows me they're so set on Vrabel. Just makes sense, dude. It just sounds so right. Next one I'm really surprised by, David Shaw, former Stanford head coach. He's currently in the Broncos front office. I thought he was a good head coach for Stanford. Kind of got railed by the fact that it's impossible to recruit in Palo Alto. Like that's the biggest issue. There's not a 5-star in the world that wants to live in fucking Silicon Valley. But I think he's a good head coach. He got requested by both the Saints and Bears to do it. And the Saints don't have a long list of guys either. So David Shaw, definitely got to look out for it. Might potentially get a job. And then the other two, which are guys that have kind of phased out of the league now, Ron Rivera completed an interview with the Jets already. And so did Rex Ryan. Rex Ryan is playing this correctly. There's never been somebody that has played the interviewing process like Rex Ryan has, and he's doing a damn good job of it, which is be as public as fucking possible. Make them see what you're doing. Literally go on ESPN, which you go on every day, and just talk about it. Nobody does that. And he's doing a damn good job of it. He's making them think.
I've always loved Rex Ryan.
I don't think he'll get the job whatsoever. He might be 5th on the list at the best. But he's making them think about him. And that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do love his attempt
before, you know, who got him to the AFC Championship game in 2010 with Mark Sanchez as your quarterback and like LaDainian Tomlinson at running back. I love Rex Ryan.
I do too. I also have heard that the Raiders are trying to see if there's a way that they could pay Bill Belichick's buyout at North Carolina and get him to coach the Raiders.
Man.
Imagine. They just already get him out of it.
That'd be crazy.
I would hate it.
That'd be crazy.
Personally. I want Bill Belichick in college football. I need to see how this works. I need it bad. I got to see how this goes. Okay, that's all for the coaching stuff. I don't want to get too bogged down in that conversation anymore. We'll obviously give updates on hirings as they come in, but we'll call it there for coaching news today, and go ahead and talk about some MLB moves. I think we've got we're at a point where some things will happen every now and then, but it's not going to be great. You know, obviously the top free agents, the top of the top is kind of off the board. We still got some big names to fall, but for now, we're just going to get moves that trickle in throughout the weeks. We'll have some more trades as well to look forward to. I think there was a trade that happened as we started this podcast. It did not matter. I think it was like I think the Cubs traded for some relief pitcher that nobody's heard of ever for like cash and dropped somebody that nobody else has heard of either. Like I genuinely don't care about it at all. But interesting trade that did happen, which I kind of called. I didn't call the team. I just called that the guy would get traded, is Gavin Lux. After the Dodgers signed Hye-Seong Kim, it was pretty obvious they were going to move on from Gavin Lux, if anything. So the Reds trade for Gavin Lux from the Dodgers. In exchange, they give up outfield prospect Mike Sirota, not Soroka, Sirota, and a competitive balance pick, which is 37th overall in July or June. July. It's in July. The MLB draft is in July.
July.
That is when they will get to use that pick. The Dodgers, they need to move on from Gavin Lux. It just hasn't necessarily worked. He came up, looked great. Hasn't really had a spot since. They're too high powered for to wait on a guy who's kind of past the point of waiting for, I would say. I do absolutely love this next deal, though. The Athletics and Brent Rooker agree to a 5-year, $60 million extension.
That's off to Brent Rooker.
That's unbelievably cheap.
Yeah.
Unbelievably cheap.
Are you sure he's not signing for the Braves?
I wish. There's a couple of guys got some cheap extensions. So we're going to get a lot of extensions rolling in these next 2 weeks because teams are trying to avoid arbitration. So there's a lot of guys coming up for arbitration they're trying to avoid. Speaking of, Tarek Skubal got a 1-year, like $10.15 million extension. The fucking Cy Young is getting paid less than Charlie Morton this coming season. In what fucking world does that make sense? Back to the Athletics. Brent Rooker. There's a 6-year option for $22 million, which I do like for Brent. He will get paid if he does get that. But what I love about this deal so much for Brent Rooker is that they're not really paying him that much every year. A little over 10 a year. I think 12 a year would be the number. Yeah, 12 a year. That's pretty easy for somebody to trade for you at the deadline. 2 years, 3 years from now, Athletics probably still sucking dick. First year in Vegas. Brent Rooker will be traded to a contender with 1 or 2 years left of control still. And it's going to be awesome.
I've been already waiting about 2 years for this.
I know. They declined the options to trade him 2 years in a row. Now they extend him, which, I guess it makes sense why they didn't trade him. They wanted to keep him. He's going to leave at some point. I don't want Brent Rooker, who was already a late bloomer. This guy's already 30.
No, he's not.
Yeah, he's already 30. Oh. Don't let him wither away. Now in Sacramento for 2 fucking years.
Yeah.
And then in Vegas. Well, I guess there's worse places to wither away than Vegas. There's a lot of people right now withering away in Vegas. As we speak, there is somebody face first on a slot machine withering away quickly.
With 17 missed calls from their wife.
Yeah, and like 14 cigarette butts. Next move, the Giants. A bit of a surprise one. I think when this happened, I texted you, I texted Colin, I just kind of just said, this was not on my radar at all. Justin Verlander signs a 1-year, $15 million deal with the Giants. That's the same money Charlie Morton is getting from the Orioles. There's something wrong with that.
Yeah.
Because they're like the same age. But last time I checked, Verlander's got a little bit better resume.
Just a little.
Like, how Justin Verlander, how Charlie Morton won a World Series? He was a relief pitcher, and Justin Verlander was the ace on that team.
Yeah.
You know how Justin Verlander has, multiple Cy Youngs? Charlie Morton has 0. That's crazy. Like, Justin Verlander, I know he's had some injury problems these last couple of years, and Charlie Morton has stayed relatively healthy. Justin Verlander, every fucking day he takes them out, is better than Charlie Morton.
One of them has Kate Upton. The other one doesn't.
There you go. There's another reason he should be making more money. It's crazy. No shade to whoever Charlie Morton is married to. You ain't Kate Upton, though.
That's
You're not
true.
Kate Upton. Sorry.
And
to
I think
anybody around the league who's married, you're not Kate Upton.
To respond to respond to the last comment I just made, maybe Kate Upton can afford herself.
That's a good point.
Just maybe.
That's a good point. Yeah. Go you. Kate Upton. The Royals re-signed Michael Lorenzen to a 1-year, $7 million deal. Love this move. It's a low-key move. Nobody's really going to be talking about it that much. But they picked him up at the deadline, I believe. I know they traded for him sometime mid-season last year from the Rangers. I'm still in football mind. I think this is a good re-signing for the Royals. Made sense to bring him back. He showed up really well in that second half of the season. He was great for you. I love that move to pick him back up. I'm going to pull up a pass and tweet for this Tarek Skubal deal because I didn't get a chance to throw it into my notes after it broke. So bear with me as I pull up Jeff Passan's Twitter.
Of course. Do we have any word on Bregman?
No,
nothing
necessarily advanced. Detroit and Toronto seem to be the front runners. Last time I've checked.
That's so boring.
Yeah, it does suck. It's a pretty shitty one. Yeah, okay, here's the Tarek Skubal deal. So, yeah, 1 year, 10.15 to avoid arbitration. This is a big raise, in case anybody was wondering. It's a big raise from what he was making. He was making nothing. This guy was a relatively low-round draft pick, came up pretty slowly through the system, got up here. I think he's like 28. Been around for a couple years now, but yeah, 28 years old. Let's see how many years he's been up. 28 years old. He's played 5 seasons. Been a full-time starter for 3 of them. Was injured in 2023. 2024 wins a Cy Young. There's many years left in the tank for Tarek Skubal to be an elite pitcher. The Tigers are very lucky to get him at this price, but it also, once again, opens the door for if things don't go their way, you can trade him. He doesn't have a contract that is unbelievably difficult to trade off. That's the biggest thing right here. in this move to me. You can still trade him if things fall apart for the Tigers.
Yep.
Okay, that's all I've got MLB-wise. Like I said, not a lot of stuff's going to happen. It's just, unfortunately, how this part of the year goes in the MLB. Okay, let's talk Premier League. A lot of soccer to talk about. We had Carabao Cup matches at the midweek this week. We have the FA Cup matches this week. I know we're not talking about the FA Cup matches, but like we're early in the rounds of the FA Cup. Unbelievably unlucky draw. Arsenal versus Manchester United. This early. I'm pretty sure Newcastle has like Coventry. Maybe worse than that, actually.
Coventry sounds delightful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see who Chelsea has. I
got Bromley. Sorry, not Coventry. I sold it too high. Bromley.
Morecambe?
Oh, I've heard of them.
I probably just sounded like a dumbass. They have a shrimp on their crest.
I've heard of them. Bromley currently sits 12th in League 2. So we're talking about the 4th division. 12th in the 4th division. They're behind MK Dons at the moment. Shout out Dele Alli.
That's a crazy shout out.
Yeah. Shout out Dele Alli. Came from MK Dons. That would be Milton Keynes Dons, in case anybody was wondering. Quick check-in on the League 2 table, in case anybody was wondering. Also, shout out to AFC Wimbledon, 5th place. Shout out Akinfenwa. Played for Wimbledon for a number of years.
Yeah.
Any other teams I recognize? Maybe a player. Oh, Morecambe, 23rd right now in League 2. So you guys have a weaker opponent than us. Likely going to be relegated down to the 5th division at the end of this year. But maybe they can pull off the upset against Chelsea.
I don't even speak it, man.
Imagine both of us fucking lose this weekend in the FA Cup.
I would be very disappointed.
After my team won leg 1 of the Carabao Cup quarterfinals, I believe, against Arsenal 2-0, we go into the weekend and we lose to Bromley. That would be funny as fuck.
Yeah.
Be absolutely hilarious. Okay. We've got Premier League to talk about. And we're starting off. So there's no matches this weekend, but we have a bunch of midweek matches that make up for it. Tuesday, Chelsea versus Bournemouth. A relatively good matchup. If you haven't really been paying attention to the table, this is a good matchup. Chelsea currently sitting 4th. A little bit of a plummet they've experienced over the last month. December 22nd was the start of it. They went draw, loss, draw. What's going on? What is happening? Because this hasn't been necessarily a difficult stretch of teams. I think maybe the easiest stretch that Chelsea will see 4 weeks in a row with Everton, Fulham, Ipswich, and Crystal Palace. What gives?
I have no idea, especially comparing the Palace and the Fulham game. We're both just late collapses in our team.
Yeah.
We went up really early against Palace and, somehow kind of failed to try to pad on to just one goal, and then they score late, and it ends up being a 1-1 draw. And against Fulham, we scored early, and then they scored 2 very late in the game. Ipswich, I have genuinely no clue. I can't even break that game down. I have no idea what happened. What I do know happened, though, is Jamaican international Omar Hutchinson, or Amari Hutchinson, I think is his first name. Amari Hutchinson, a former loan system player from Chelsea, scored a goal against us for Ipswich.
Nice.
I have no idea. And Bournemouth is not a team that I want to see in this stretch of form, because they look really, really good right now, and their defense especially looks really, really good. Yeah, I don't know what to expect from this game, but Chelsea just needs to get back to what we were doing. We're still 4th. We still have a chance to contend for the Premier League title. It's just we got to get it figured out sooner rather than later, because a lot of the teams behind Chelsea, like Newcastle, Bournemouth are really hot right now.
Yeah.
So Chelsea need to get it figured out, and Bournemouth would be a perfect time to do it. It's just we're facing a very valid opponent.
Yeah. If you haven't checked out the Premier League Team of the Month, Bournemouth, that defense that you're talking about with teenager, 19-year-old Dean Housen, fucking dog.
Yeah.
I just looked up because I wanted to see where he's played elsewhere. He was at Juventus last year. Had no idea.
Yep.
And I just also found an article saying that I'm trying to see what they purchased him for, but they're saying he was the best budget move of the summer.
And he's proving it too.
Yeah, 19 years old too. He looks fucking awesome.
When in doubt, get a center back from the Serie A.
16 million euros for a 19-year-old center back that was playing in Serie A.
Yeah, that's impressive.
That's extremely impressive. And Bournemouth all around has been extremely impressive. This run of form they're on, they're unbeaten since match week 12. That was before Thanksgiving. They're unbeaten.
Yeah.
And they're not just like tying every time. They've only got 3 draws and 5 wins in that stretch. That's unbelievable run of form for 8 matches in a row to be unbeaten as a Bournemouth side like this. They're scoring goals, 30 goals for, pretty average amongst their position in the table. Nothing crazy. They've only allowed 23 goals. That's very, very good. That's among the likes of, obviously the top 3 right now, unbelievable defenses. 19 goals allowed for Nottingham Forest and Liverpool, 18 for Arsenal. But the 23 allowed for Bournemouth is 5th place behind Newcastle and 1 goal better than Chelsea.
Yeah.
That's impressive to see a team like this to play this level of defense, and you're going up against a Chelsea side that is not only playing bad, they're playing bad against bad teams. This is the time for Bournemouth to just slide in and grab another win.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. But there's a Chelsea fan on this podcast, and this Chelsea fan will not pick them to lose this week. I'm going to go 2-0 Chelsea.
Okay, I'm going to go 1-1. I think Chelsea stays in it. They can score goals, but both these teams have played solid defense. Despite the fact that Chelsea's not on a good run of form, it's not like they're giving up crazy amounts of goals.
That is true.
All right, next game.
It feels like I haven't seen my team win in a month.
Well, you would be pretty much correct. The last time they won was the 15th of December, so we're certainly coming up on it. And this game that is going to be played between them and Bournemouth is on the 14th of January.
There you go.
So it may actually be a month or more. We'll see. Next game, top of the table, number 1 versus number 3. Nottingham Forest taking on Liverpool. That was number 3 versus number 1, I guess. I should have said it the other way. Nottingham Forest is 3rd in the table. This is a huge fucking shot for Nottingham Forest. Best form in the Premier League right now. They've won 6 straight. You got it. This is your shot at the crown. Liverpool does have a game in hand on the entire league except for Everton, who they need to make up a game with.
Yeah.
But Nottingham Forest, despite that game in hand that Liverpool has, could bring this within 3 points if they win this game. Now, I know game in hand, it probably still ends up being 6 points. But for now, this is Nottingham Forest's best chance. They can move up to 2nd. They could give Liverpool a loss after a draw that Liverpool should not have had. Liverpool should not have drawn 2-2 with Manchester United, but they did.
I'll go as far as to say they should have lost the game.
Yeah.
And I texted you about this. If it wasn't for some fucking reason, Harry Maguire's dumbass, who, by the way, is lucky to be playing in the Premier League,
they're probably going to extend him.
Or West Ham might buy him. I've seen that too. But the fact that in your biggest rivalry game against Liverpool, he is on the end of a perfect cross from Xerxes in the 89th minute and skies it as he should. He's Harry Maguire, is unbelievable. And the game after that Liverpool played in the EFL Cup, which Van Dijk played, Mohamed Salah played, Mohamed Salah kind of looked like a ball hog to the point where it was getting in the way of pretty decent chances that I think there was one that Cody Gakpo could have had, and there was another one that Alexis McAllister could have had. So Nottingham Forest is in a really, really good position here, Grayson, to make things very interesting for really the whole Premier League if Liverpool gets stopped here. Or if they even draw for a second time in a row, I think it's interesting. So I
My
actually love this matchup.
my biggest drawback on saying that Nottingham Forest can show up and do something here, they've only scored 29 goals this season. That's an alarmingly low rate. Like, if you go down the list, the next team in the table that has scored less than 30 goals, is Manchester United at 13th. That's a problem if you're Nottingham Forest. Now, you do play elite defense. You are tied second in goals allowed. You're tied second in goals allowed with the team you're playing, and they have just happened to score 8 more goals than anybody else in one less game than everyone.
Yeah.
That's my problem here. I don't care if Liverpool drew with Manchester United last week. They still scored 2 goals. Nottingham Forest, yes, they play phenomenal defense. I think best case scenario, it's a 1-0 or like a 1-goal victory for Nottingham Forest. I think most likely it's a draw or a loss. There's not a world where Nottingham Forest runs away with this one. There is a world where Liverpool just thrashes them.
Yeah.
I'm going to take Liverpool 2-1.
I'm going to go 1-1 draw.
Okay. Yeah, I respect that. And I do think it's a tall task for Liverpool to score 2 goals on a defense like this. I don't know. I can't fully buy in yet on Nottingham Forest. I don't know what it is.
That's completely fair.
Yeah. And then Wednesday, Arsenal-Tottenham. Both very much in need of a win. Arsenal, maybe not as much. But like we talked about with Nottingham Forest and Liverpool, Arsenal's also got their shot at the top if Nottingham Forest can help them out a little bit today. Or not today, but next week. Arsenal needs this win. You're also coming off a draw with Brighton, which Brighton is like the worst fucking team in the league right now, in my opinion. They haven't won a game since the last time. Here's a fun fact. They haven't won a game since the last time Bournemouth lost, which was against Bournemouth. They were the last team to beat Bournemouth, and that was Brighton's last win. In November.
That tells you a lot.
November 23rd. Since then, they have played teams amongst the likes of Southampton. They have played teams amongst the likes of Fulham, Leicester, Crystal Palace, West Ham, Brentford, Aston Villa, and now Arsenal. Sure, Aston Villa and Arsenal are fine to draw with. But what the fuck are we doing? What are we doing right now to be in a position like that? Brighton is awful. Tottenham is worse somehow. They have lost 3 of their last 4, and the other one they drew. And they drew it with fucking Wolves, who has given up 45 fucking goals this season. That's more than 2 of the teams in relegation. Wolves is lucky to be on outside of relegation right now. And it seems like some things are going their way. Since they made the managerial change, the 3-0 win over Leicester, the 2-0 win over Manchester United. They drew with Tottenham, and they lost to Nottingham Forest, which happens. Tottenham has to show up in this game against Arsenal. They did not create chances well whatsoever against Newcastle. They did not create chances well enough against Wolves, which Wolves' defense is fucking garbage. So they did still score 2 goals, but he also tied 2-2.
Yep.
Tottenham simply does not create chances well enough, and Arsenal will eat them alive for it.
Yeah.
Like we talked about, Arsenal is one of these teams at the top that hasn't allowed any goals. They've only allowed 18. It's the best in the league. If you aren't cashing out, not only if you're not cashing your chances, if you're not creating the chances in the first place, Arsenal will thrash you. And that's what's going to happen. I don't think there's a way that Arsenal or that Tottenham does this. I think this might be a game where they get embarrassed enough that Ange gets sacked at the end.
Oh, wow.
I think that's where we're at with Tottenham. You can't tell me
he's on the seat.
Yeah, you can't tell me he's not on the hot seat. I think he is the next domino to fall when it comes to managerial firings in the Premier League. Manchester United, we knew Ten Hag was on the hottest seat in probably Europe.
Yeah.
Wolves needed a change. Leicester needed a change. Those are obvious ones. Tottenham is certainly the next one to go. Ange is just not getting it done with what he has. And I know what he has is not a striker to be spoken for, but he does have elite chance creators who aren't creating chances. He has an elite defense that can't stay on the pitch. He's done, especially if they get thrashed, and I think they do.
And on top of that, they really still have yet to replace Harry Kane. But you're a top Premier League team. You have the money to replace Harry Kane. I mean,
definitely.
But I want to kind of dive into Tottenham, and I want to go back to the start of last month, start of December. 1-1 draw Fulham. Fulham actually had a red card in that game as well. 1-0 loss to Bournemouth. 4-3 loss to Chelsea. You played Southampton. You won 5-0. Then you played Liverpool, lost 3-6. You played Forest, lost 1-0, and then you had the draw against Wolves that you brought up, and then you lose 2-1 to Newcastle. They really had a gauntlet to run in December. Like, let's be honest, that's difficult. And I think it's one of those moments, right, where Tottenham, as much as I hate them, I don't believe that they're all that bad. I like watching Tottenham when they're healthy. They're entertaining. Their defense is fun, and they have fun wingers. But it's all coming to this moment where, it's 2025, and you play Arsenal in the North. Oh, my God. That scared the shit out of me.
What was that?
Something just fell off my desk.
Oh.
It's my Yankees hat.
Jesus.
But look, you're coming to a point now, right, where your team's shit, but it's the North London derby. You have a chance to not only embarrass your rival, but to maybe get back on some form here, right? I think that's what's going to happen. I'm going to take Tottenham 2-1 over Arsenal.
Yeah, I can't.
Major upset.
I can't. I can't go on a rant about how Ange is going to get fired and then just say it's going to be close. So I'm taking Arsenal 3-0. Tottenham is not if Tottenham was fully healthy, it's a close one. Arsenal will beat the shit out of them.
And I think what a lot of this is coming from is I really like the comeback story of not only like a rivalry game, but one side of the rivalry genuinely has their backs against the wall, like Tottenham, Manchester United did when they 2-2'd Liverpool.
Yeah,
I think this game gets a lot more interesting than a 3-0 win, just thrashing for Arsenal. So I'm going to take Tottenham 2-1.
Okay. Let's run through the schedule real quick because we do have some midweek matches, which, if you're an American fan, much easier to watch because they're typically later in the day, which is nice. So Tuesday is when all the matches start up. You got a full slate Tuesday. Well, kind of. All these matches, the first matches start 2:30 p.m. here. And then the last one starts at 3. So we got 4 matches going on Tuesday. Thank you. The nationally televised one here in the States, Chelsea-Bournemouth on USA. So you can watch it there. Otherwise, you can watch on Peacock. You can watch Brentford-Man City, West Ham-Fulham, and Nottingham Forest-Liverpool. All fantastic matches to watch, personally. In my opinion, you can get something good out of all of those. But Chelsea-Bournemouth is the nationally televised one. Wednesday, we got 4 more matches. Same schedule, 2:30 and 3 o'clock. The nationally televised one here kind of sucks. Everton, Aston Villa. Not what I really want to be watching. But if you have Peacock, Leicester, Crystal Palace, Newcastle Wolves, and Arsenal Spurs. Unfortunately, that one's on Peacock. Thursday, obviously we will be recording after these matches happen, or at least right at the end of them. Ipswich, Brighton, and Manchester United, Southampton, which of course Manchester United will be nationally televised in the States. Then we come back over and we preview next weekend. And next week, we will be previewing Champions League as well on the Friday episode. Champions League will be returning midweek after that. So a lot to look forward to. But a lot of good Premier League games to watch this season or this week. FA Cup, I believe, is on ESPN Plus. So you can watch FA Cup matches if you really care to. And I think that does it for that. So I think we all know what that means. If you've ever watched an episode of Second and Short, you know exactly where we're at here in this episode. And that would be the beginning of our favorite time, potentially. It's questions time. And I think at this point, questions time has just evolved. Yes, we answer the questions. But when you're here, we're doing the Who Am I's with Nathan. And I've got a whole section here that we're going to talk about. I think this is just like the life portion of Second and Short. We talk about everything.
Yeah.
We talk about music. We talk about what's going on. We talk about whatever. This section is all about whatever we want to talk about here, really. We just kind of get to freestyle. But we're going to continue to call it questions time for the sake of continuity. And because we are answering questions. That is still the basis of this part of the episode. So if you're new here, join the subreddit, r/2nda short. If you've been here the whole time, you still haven't done it, join the subreddit as well. But Nathan's got some questions here for us. Are the Chiefs going to get 3 in a row? The ever-existing question right now.
This question gives me so much anxiety.
Yeah.
Because like what I've seen on social media is you can't go against black magic. You just can't.
That's fair.
So I am actually going to say I don't know.
Okay, that's a good cop out there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say yes because I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong so bad. Yes, the Chiefs will win 3 in a row, and I want to be so wrong.
You know what? Let me get out of the cop out. I'm with you. I want to be wrong as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay.
If you got a dog and had to name it a human name, what would it be? I love this question because I'm not a human name guy personally, but I respect that some people do. And if I do a human name, it needs to have non-human reasoning. Does that make sense at all?
Elaborate.
Okay, so let's say I have 2 dogs.
Ben and Jerry.
Kind of along those lines. Miller is one of them. Miller is a human name, but he is named after Miller Lite.
Yes.
I would also go for Jack or Jim or Evan as popular whiskey brands. I think plays well.
Yeah.
I also, this is obviously not non-human naming, but it's non-traditional naming. I want also to potentially name my pets after dogs. I'm not getting any other pets. I don't care. Maybe some fish. I would like my dogs to be named after baseball players if I can't go by alcohol. But it would be baseball players' last names. So you wouldn't typically name something like Acuna or Albies or like Freeman. I think Freeman's a fantastic dog name.
Yeah.
But that's how I would go. I'm not a big name guy. If I had to go human names, I guess I would just name it after baseball players or football players.
Yeah. You only gave boy names.
Yeah, well, okay. In my eyes, dogs are boys, cats are girls. That's just how it is in my brain. If I had female names, I'm sure I could have some female athletes to name them after.
Abby Wambach.
Yeah, exactly. Morgan.
Yeah.
Morgan would play.
Alex
Morgan would play.
Yeah. I liked, we had a cat that ran away almost 3 years ago. Her name was Elsa.
I thought you were going to say
after
OJ.
Frozen. Oh,
continue.
Man. Not OJ. Her name was Elsa, not after Frozen though.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a low-key meaning to the name. So the movie Born Free, there was a lion named Elsa the lion. So
Gotcha.
She was named after Elsa
Okay.
the lion. So yeah, even though we already have had this cat, obviously not anymore, but I've always liked the name Elsa for a female. And if I was gonna go with a boy name, I'd probably go with Mean Joe.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
And then everybody could call him like Joe, like Meanie.
Yeah.
A lot of nickname potential by naming him a nickname.
Mr. Green.
Yeah, Mr. Green would be good.
Yeah.
Well, okay, that's the thing. You have to make the decision. Because I have family members. Obviously, if you're listening to this, you know exactly what, because I'm going to fully reference it. You're going to know exactly who you are. They've got a dog, and they call him Bo. They're Auburn fans. They call him Bo. but like they call him Bo Jackson a lot. You got to decide if he's Bo Jackson or Bo.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at with it.
Confusing on the dog, too.
Yeah. Because he's like, why? Who's Jackson?
Yeah.
Like, I think you got to decide. You got to decide if you're in on it. You can say he's named after him, but if not, you got to call him that.
Yeah.
So but I like naming dogs after athletes. I think that plays very well.
Yeah, I
think it does. What is your favorite flavor? That's it.
Ooh.
I think that would be like you got to go with something that's so like a versatile flavor. I think.
Yeah. I would say for me, you cannot go wrong with vanilla.
See, I was thinking
Candles,
more
desserts,
fruit flavored. Was my thought.
Cherry would have been my number 2.
I think green apple. Fantastic flavor. Green apple is a top tier
flavor. Green apple?
I love green apple.
Oh man.
And like eating a green apple is a great flavor, but like specifically green apple flavor. Elite Jolly Rancher. Underrated snow cone.
I could see that.
Like, so good for every candy. Gummy, hard candy, doesn't matter. Great candy flavor. I think it plays pretty well. I think it does. If I have to go for like just something I taste all the time, peppermint. I think peppermint is a refreshing flavor. Because like, okay, let's throw in the hypothetical that like you have to pick a flavor that you always have to taste. This taste stays in your mouth at all times.
Vanilla.
Peppermint.
Peppermint is seasonal.
No, it's
Unless
not.
you want to like get tricky and be like, oh, but there's peppermint gum or mints that people like that aren't seasonal. But
my toothpaste is peppermint.
Mm.
It's not just mint. It's peppermint toothpaste. I do buy peppermint gum every now and then. I typically would go for like cool mint. Maybe cool mint is better flavor overall. But like I like peppermint tea. I'm not much of a creamer guy anymore in my coffee, but a peppermint coffee creamer. I know I had to specify coffee because I was about to say I'm not really a creamer guy anymore, but
I like how you defended peppermint though, because I think that
peppermint's good.
Before you started talking, I was kind of like, how would anybody defend that? But I'll give it to you.
Psychopath answer would be cinnamon. You are a psychopath if cinnamon is your favorite flavor. Fuck you. I like cinnamon. I like cinnamon. If you use cinnamon toothpaste, you're the devil. That's crazy. To willingly, that's one of the first things you do when you wake up. Just put the harsh flavor of cinnamon in your mouth and just and lather it along your teeth and gums. That's insane. That is insane.
Oh man. Dude, I've been a giggly bitch on this podcast. It's just a lot of laughing.
If we're talking flavors, like if I just could just pick a flavor to taste randomly, favorite flavor is gonna be like some complex ass meal. Like that flavor is really good.
Yeah.
I think we had to throw those
steak and mashed potatoes.
Yeah, sure. Like I'll throw a hot take out here while we're just, talking flavors. I think you could beat a steak with a lot of other things very easily. It's just we eat steak so here and there, and it's a good food. It's top tier food to go for, but you don't eat it all the time. I guess
it's also kind of special.
It's an occasion thing, at least for people of our fiscal position. But if I was, I could not. I don't really eat that much steak. I eat chicken every fucking day, sometimes multiple times a day, and I don't get tired of it. And I think you can do so much more with it. It's a blank canvas. Steak has a flavor. Chicken doesn't really taste like much. It tastes like whatever you do to it. But I'm not making fucking buffalo steak. I'll make buffalo chicken. I'll make lemon pepper chicken. I'll make, like a Mexican seasoning blend chicken, like whatever it may be, I could do with chicken. I think there's places where I will go that are steakhouses that make a better chicken than any of the steaks on the menu. I would go as far as to say that. I'm talking about you, Texas Roadhouse. Just saying. Okay, enough of food and flavor talk. Favorite memory of snow in Georgia? We're supposed to be getting some big snow, potentially 4 inches of snow in Atlanta today as you guys are listening to this.
Yeah. One time I wrapped my body around a tree sledding one time.
Oh, wow. That's fun.
Yeah, that was wild. And my mom...
Is that your favorite memory?
Yeah. And I appreciate my mom. This is like a total boy mom moment. She really was like, from what I remember, this was a long time ago, and I probably blew my brains out when I hit that tree. But from what I remember, she wasn't that sympathetic. She was like, just bail. She grew up in Tennessee where
she's
they get
right.
no snow. And I was like,
I think everybody,
right.
that's an important
exactly
thing
right.
to remember for young people or people that are just new to snow. Just bail off of the sled. That is a thing you need to learn early on.
Yeah. My cousin and I created this new way of sledding. We had some really cool sleds at my house. And we would sometimes do it when it wasn't even like snowing. We would just go down the hill that I had. I have a major hill, but we called it knee sledding, where you could like drift.
Yeah.
It was like
for sure.
Yeah, it was fun. It was really, really fun.
Yeah.
We probably didn't create that, but
no, definitely not.
I felt like we did.
We were definitely doing it in the neighborhood, but
yeah,
I have like
we'll
vivid memories of just the ridiculous things that we used to sled. Tile, like floor tile. So like it'd be like 3, like probably like 18 by 18 tiles that are like made in a set that's like probably 5 feet long. 2 people sit down on it, like toboggan style.
Yeah.
And just go straight down this extremely high driveway. You've been in the cul-de-sac where I grew up. That tall-ass driveway covered in ice. Because we didn't really get snow. Even when it was snow, it wasn't really snow. It was ice everywhere.
Yeah.
And that flooring is slick
I was
on the
about
bottom.
To say, that's fast.
Slick on the bottom. And you would fucking fly. It also has just a flat front edge. And so this is a high slope, and you quickly just meet like the ground here. And you would just there would be like the pain would just like, you'd hit that spot and the pain would just like, you first feel it in your tailbone and it'd go like all the way up through your fucking ears, dude.
Yeah, just chomping the mouth.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Like it's a miracle we didn't bite our tongues off doing that. Oh, and then like we got like 8 people we flipped over a folding table and got 8 people on it and slid down that hill as well.
Oh, that sounds badass.
Yeah, that was fun. My most fond snow memory though in Georgia, there was one time it snowed and then there was just a layer of ice over it. Like probably like a half inch of ice over all of the snow. And me and Nathan like broke open the top, like the ice, and cleared out all the snow and got inside of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was sick. That's sick.
My last memory that I remembered while you were talking. So I think this was the Snowmageddon year. By the way, anybody that's not from Georgia that listens to this podcast, go look up Snowmageddon in Atlanta.
Funny.
And just look up pictures of 75 of just deserted cars.
Yeah, my dad drove home from Atlanta on 75 that day.
Yeah, that's...
in a stick shift diesel Volkswagen Bug.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Meanwhile, fucking Chipper Jones was picking up Freddie Freeman on a 4-wheeler.
Oh, I totally forgot about that story.
Yeah.
Which perfectly segues into my story because my mom got stuck about probably 3 miles away from the house. She got really close to making it home. She got stuck on a hill, and some guy picked her up on a 4-wheeler and took her home. Well, Dad got home from work, no problems.
Yep.
But now we had to go get her car. So Dad and I walked through we walked 3 miles, went behind the house, through all the woods and stuff, and ended up retrieving her car and got it back safely.
Nice.
That was a fun memory.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Snowmageddon, Nathan ended up at our cousin's house.
Oh, he couldn't even make it home.
No. My uncle like offered to pick him up because Spencer, who's watches the pod and is around, and then Brandon. The two of them, Brandon was a year younger than Nathan. And Spencer was, I think, 3 years older than Nathan. So they were all like, our high school and middle school are right next to each other. And so my uncle picked up all of them, took them back to his house, which was right by the school, not as closer than we were to the school. And Nathan was just there for like 4 days.
Damn.
Yeah. And like, me and Ethan got picked up because I was in 5th grade and Ethan was in kindergarten at the same elementary school. So we got picked up by my mom and she took us home.
Great. Yeah.
Crazy time. Hopefully that doesn't have to happen this year because school will very well. I'm sure if school hasn't already been canceled for them tomorrow, it is canceled by the time you guys are hearing this.
UGA's canceled.
Yeah.
Or for today, as you're listening.
My work, we have to be closed because it's a state of emergency by the governor.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay, next thing. Will we see another new baseball record this year? I don't know what record we're necessarily talking about. I guess Shohei 50-50 is probably what is being referenced here.
Yeah.
Homers in a season? Could be. That one I think is always up for grabs. Somebody could always just show up and do it.
I think there's...
It's 74, right? 73 by Bonds?
3 guys active in the league that could probably do that.
And who would that be in your eyes?
Judge, Ohtani. Maybe it's just 2 people.
Yeah, that's Barry Bonds has 73. You never know. Dude, that video I sent you of AJ Przinsky talking about Barry Bonds, unbelievable.
Awesome.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
I had seen that video before, and before I still thought it was Josh Donaldson.
Yeah, that's a tough scene. I could see the resemblance.
They even look the same.
They do. Yeah, kinda. And then they both have like that really short facial hair as well.
Yeah.
And they were both catchers to start their careers at least. Similar haircuts, so yeah, I know, I get it. Yeah, Barry Bonds just choosing not to hit home runs for a couple games so that he could do it at home to beat Willie Mays' record, and then just like roped doubles for 3 games, came home and hit 3 homers. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know of any other baseball records we'll see. I don't think there's a lot of them that are necessarily attainable this year. 50-50 is going to be hard to do. Yeah. I don't even think Shohei can replicate it. I did see somebody made a hot take. I can't remember who it was, that Shohei wins Cy Young and MVP. I just think returning to pitching from Tommy John doesn't bode well for a Cy Young candidate.
Yeah.
But we'll see. You never know. When will the MLB go to 1 MVP? This is a fantastic conversation. It's going to be sooner rather than later, I think.
Yeah.
Because we've pretty well, look, okay, yes. Interleague play started in the 80s or whatever. We're to the point where you play everybody. You play everybody at least one series every year. And we're also to the point where you're only playing your division opponents, each of them 13 times. So you're looking at 52 games. 110 other games are against other teams. At that point, and it's not, I don't think it's specifically swayed one league over the other. You play everyone. So, I think we're getting real close to it.
Every other, really American sports league, you only have, the one MVP. I really have enjoyed that baseball has had the 2.
Mm-hmm.
So if it were me, and I don't know really how this would work or if it would make much sense, and I'd like to get your opinion on it. Have one guy be the undisputed best player in the MLB, but then still have your best conference players.
At that point, what's the point of having that award?
Exactly. But I don't know. I think breaking it up by the leagues, it has, you get to see more players kind of get their flowers and their shout out. And then,
Yes.
fans can debate, who's better, the NL MVP or the AL MVP.
Agreed.
So
I
to be
do
honest,
like
for me, it doesn't even really matter.
I do like that debate of, who's the better one. The problem for me is our finalists this year. You didn't. I didn't need to see Francisco Lindor as an MVP finalist.
Yeah, that's very true.
I didn't need to see Seth Lugo, I believe, was a Cy Young finalist.
Mm-hmm.
That's just, come on. What are we doing?
Yeah.
That's my issue. Is yes, we get to give credit to the best player in both leagues. But also, we're giving credit to some guys that are not the best in the league.
Yeah.
That's my issue with it. And I think now everybody has a DH. No pitchers are hitting in one league and DH is in the other. That should be the clear indicator there. Everybody's doing the same thing. We're all playing the same teams. I think it at this point should merge.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, who knows? I think the MLB does get a bit of. They get a bit of a boost from having AL and NL because there's more conversation. If there's not just one overarching conversation, there's two big conversations for each category, which I do think plays into their favor. All right, next question. That was the last question. But as we said at the beginning of questions time, this is just where we talk about things. And boy, do I have something I want to talk about. So I, at the beginning of the episode, mentioned that I was hanging out with original co-host of Second and Short, Brock. Shout out to Brock, the boy, still friend of the program. But
I forgot about this segment. I know what this is now.
Yes,
yeah. I was like, where's this going?
And so, okay, last night we're hanging out, doing as we do. We watched a movie. It was, didn't really pay attention. We talked through the entire movie as per usual. I guess funny I used the word usual. It was The Usual Suspects, which I've already seen before, but it's a fantastic movie. In case anybody hasn't seen it, one of Kevin Spacey's first big roles. Great movie.
Kevin Spacey, a little bit rough these days.
Yeah, a little rough, that's for sure. But we watched that, whatever, and then I was just like trying to find something to watch on YouTube while we were just hanging out, and we started having some conversation about like football being like such a team sport. And I think Brock said that like football is the best example of team sports in American sports. So like out of the big American sports, nothing is more of a team sport than football. Sure, whatever. But we're saying these different things, and I kind of threw baseball into there because like ask Mike Trout, baseball is a team sport. And so like we were going on about this, and it made me think of this George Carlin bit, famous stand-up comedian. You can have your opinions on him, whatever. Some people not the biggest fans of him. Nonetheless, he has a fantastic bit about baseball versus football. We may have even talked about it before on this podcast. I don't know. I've watched it so many times. So good. Perfect bit about it. And he kept talking about football, and like the way that he does this bit is where he kind of talks about like how things are described in these two different sports, like the gridiron, and you throw bombs and like all this different stuff, and everything is down and all this and everything. It's perfect. I will do no justice if I start quoting it, but that made me think of, I had seen people talking about old NFL film stuff. Seen it. It was a conversation. I think Jason Kelsey does this new late night show thing. I watched the first episode. It kind of sucks. But it was on ESPN. It was ass. But he did bring up the first ever NFL Films thing because they're working with NFL Films to make the show. And it was called They Call It Pro Football in 1967. In 1967, and They Call It Pro Football, John Facenda is the narrator for NFL Films for like the first 10 years, 20 years they did it. He's amazing. Unbelievable voice. Yeah. But 1967, they were miking up coaches. That's insane to think about.
With what?
Literally, like lavalier mics.
Wow.
They were miking up players. That's fucking crazy.
I'm sure a lot of that audio has been discarded.
Yeah, of course. For
1960s NFL, what verbiage. Are they saying to each other?
Yeah. I don't know. I do not want to hear what they were calling Charlie Taylor when he was playing for the Redskins. That's bad enough. The Redskins.
Yeah.
Exactly. They call it pro football is just genuinely, not just as a football fan, as a fan of like movies and film and stuff, an essential thing that a person should watch. It is genuinely amazing. Football Follies. I don't know. Football Follies. The first volume of it, 1968, is just the first ever like blooper reel of the NFL. And I don't know who did the voiceover on that one, but it is fucking hilarious. It's just like classic. It almost looks like if you went back and watched like the Three Stooges. It's fucking hilarious, like slapstick comedy. But it's on a football field. It's genuinely funny as shit because it's like the best players of all time. Like Johnny Unitas is my prime example. Johnny Unitas just not being able to catch a snap is insane. But it was happening, and that is so much so funny. They also had one called More Than a Game. And the beginning of it follows like a super fan of I want to say it's one of the North teams. It might have been the Bears. I don't know. It was a super fan of some team up north, and like he's in the crowd, and you can just tell he's really drunk, and like obviously a just crippling alcoholic, which I think was just like normal in like 1968. It definitely was normal. I don't think it was. But like there was moments where like he's yelling at the out of the stands. He's just yelling at the team. And then like he sits down and you can see he's like trying to hold back throwing up.
Oh my God.
It's hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Yeah. And then like that one, there's like when you get like the players talking on the field and stuff, which is really cool. But I also have some notes after watching these three things last night. Me and Brock kind of had a lot of conversations about this. No one could tackle correctly. It's insane. Me and Luke talked about this before the episode. You either had to hit a guy so hard that his head cold welded to the ground, or if you try to wrap him up, he was just slipping right out of your hands, and that was that. And your hands probably got like sliced in half on his uniform. He probably cleated you on the way off too. Like, it was unreal watching these clips. And because of the fact that I'm talking about guys just easily getting past people, Charlie Taylor, he was number 42 as like, I think a wide receiver for the Redskins, was a fucking animal. I'm starting to think, after watching these videos, he might have been one of the greatest players ever. He's in the Hall of Fame, so I guess that cements him as one. But like, he was doing shit that dudes can't do now. It was insane watching Charlie Taylor. He was a guy, I had obviously heard the name. Never obviously went back and watched fucking Charlie Taylor highlights from 1967. But that guy was a fucking animal. Shout out Charlie Taylor. Next note I have. We got to stop saying that things happen before the forward pass if they happened before Joe Montana. Because Joe Montana's career started in 1979. He was a full-time starter, I believe, starting in 1980. They were throwing the ball. Johnny Unitas was playing. Bart Starr was at the end of his career. Now, Bart Starr isn't necessarily a big passing yards guy, but Johnny Unitas held passing yard records for a long time and had good-ass numbers. They were throwing the ball. Like, don't get it twisted. Jim Brown.
Bradshaw.
Yeah, like Jim Brown's era. They were throwing the ball. I know he had crazy rushing yard numbers, but they were throwing the ball.
Yeah.
We can't keep doing the this was before the forward pass thing just because it was back in the day. They were slinging that rock. People just move differently. I also noticed that guys didn't know how to run. Like, they ran differently. They simply moved differently, and I knew that. I've watched baseball from back in the day. Fellas just weren't moving correctly. Nobody was. Nobody had motor skills. It was crazy. Like, the fastest dude in the NFL back then, probably slower than the average lineman, offensive lineman.
Oh, I'm sure. I can believe that.
Like, but they still come off as athletic, despite the fact that they look like they're running the hardest they possibly can, and they're just not moving.
Yeah.
It's crazy. My biggest takeaway, though, is we're sitting there, and I go, how in the fuck is this 1967? And we're talking about the whole forward pass thing. But Norm Van Brocklin still has the record for the most passing yards in a game from 1951. He threw 554 passing yards.
I always forget about that.
It's unbelievable. I love when a quarterback starts getting close or is on pace for it. Josh Allen did it last year, and they pulled him for the fourth quarter, but he easily could have broken the record. It's still so insane that has existed because literally every single good quarterback in the history of this league has played an entire career since this guy did that. Like, every single good quarterback, if you went and you made a top 25 quarterbacks of all time, all of them are ahead of Norm Van Brocklin, and all of them have played since he stopped playing. It's crazy. And I have some things to put these into perspective. Norm Van Brocklin, as around football, his career ended when he got fired by the Falcons. He was the coach for 6 years, and he was the head coach and GM for his final 4 years in Atlanta. He coached them to like 2 wins. They fired him. That same year was when the Watergate scandal happened.
Oh, my God.
That was the end of his coaching career. He stopped playing 64 years ago. That's unreal.
I got something on my tongue.
Here's some perspective of how long ago 64 years was. That was when John Elway was born. The same year that Norm Van Brocklin stopped playing football, John Elway was born.
It's incredible.
Joe Montana was born 5 years after Norm Van Brocklin set the record. How the fuck does this record still stand?
Yeah.
It's insane. It's genuinely insane because
I want to add to that.
We talk about before the forward pass. Obviously in a joking manner. In 1951, this guy threw 554 yards in a game. Crazy.
And it's untouched.
Crazy.
Yeah.
What were you saying?
Ben Roethlisberger has thrown 4 500-yard games, which is the most for any NFL quarterback, and he has not touched Norman Van Brocklin.
Yeah. I'm trying to see who has the second best.
I think Burrow has 3.
Does he? Really?
Yeah, something tells me that Burrow has 3.
Wow. So the second most, this is hilarious. The second most is Matt Schaub in 2012 in a game for the Texans. 527. So he was about 3 first downs away from breaking that record.
And Ben has 522.
Yeah, Ben has 522, which puts him 5th all time. He's actually tied 5th with Boomer Esiason.
Oh, wow.
Dan Marino had a 521. Ben had a 506 as well, and a 503. Some recent guys that have done it. Kirk Cousins did it this year. 509. Took overtime, but still he did it. Burrow did it in 2021. What?
Who's number 2 on the list?
All time?
Well, for gotten as close to who's gotten the closest?
Matt Schaub.
To him. I think it. Wait, let me see if I'm.
It's 527.
Oh, never mind. I'm looking at a list that's ordered by date.
Ah,
not yards.
yeah. By date, that would be Y.A. Tittle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In
Legendary
1962.
quarterback, Y.A. Tittle.
Yeah.
Trying to see anything else interesting about this record. Not really. Jared Goff, 2019 with the Rams, 517.
Was that the ketchup mustard game where it was the best shootout of all time?
No,
I
this
think
was
it may have been.
Rams Buccaneers.
Oh,
I know what game you're talking about, but it was not
against
that
the
game.
Chiefs, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Chiefs.
Phillip Rivers had one. So did Matt Ryan. I remember Matt Ryan's because Julio had like 200-something yards against the Panthers. Cam Newton.
Dude, there's some interesting ones in here. Like Dan Marino, his 521-yard game was a 44-30 loss
That's
against the
crazy.
Jets. Lost the game.
You know what's
He
also
threw
crazy
60
about that
times.
game is that Dan Marino didn't get sacked.
What?
He didn't get sacked
What a
once in that
weird-ass
game. He threw the ball 60 times. Jared Goff in that game against the Buccaneers we were talking about threw the ball 68 times. Norm Van Brocklin completed 27 passes to get that fucking record. What the fuck?
That's unbelievable.
How does this record still exist? I don't get it. I need footage of this game.
Yeah.
He had 5
Here you
touchdowns,
go.
2 interceptions.
In 2006, Drew Brees played the Cincinnati Bengals. He lost 31-16 and threw for 510.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. 500 passing yard games are an interesting thing. Because let's be honest,
really are.
to win an NFL game, you don't need to throw that much.
No.
You just don't. It's insane.
do not.
But yeah, I heavily urge anybody out there to go back and watch old NFL film stuff. Because they've been doing stuff that like we thought was revolutionary now. And they're just holding on to it. They've got all this stuff just chilling. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. It is kind of crazy.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm done with my tangent here, so I believe we'll wrap things up now. But yeah, that was a fun experience, and it unlocked a lot of conversation topics.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah. So Norm Van Brocklin, somebody's got to beat your record soon. Please do it. Okay. Yeah, that's the episode, guys. Thanks for tuning in. It was a bit of a long one, 220, but I think we added in some wrinkles we wouldn't typically talk about, like coaching and Norm Van Brocklin. So
a lot of laughing, a lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of pauses
Fun
for
episode.
laughter. It was a fantastic episode. And if you enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe here on YouTube. You turn on post notifications. That way you know whenever we post a YouTube short, a YouTube video, or we go live like we are going to on Monday. Obviously, we'll remind you on the Monday episode here of the podcast. But nonetheless, make sure you like and comment. Give us a comment. Who do you think is going to break Norm Van Brocklin's record? And if you say Shedeur Sanders, unsubscribe.
Yeah.
And for those of you listening on the podcast platforms, rate 5 stars. Give us a follow on there. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok. Those are the best places where you'll find our short form content as well as any updates on what we've got going on at Second and Short. And join the Second and Short subreddit r/2ndand short. Luke, anything for the people as we head into this wintry weather-filled Georgia weekend?
Comment your Super Bowl prediction and give us a score.
Love it. Love that.
Probably a little bit early, but I couldn't think of anything.
Whatever. You can do it every week. New Super Bowl prediction every week from people in the comments, please.
Yeah, actually, no. I'll make it a little bit harder.
Okay.
Super Bowl prediction, but you have to pick underdogs and then give your reason why.
Super Bowl dark horses, please. Everybody in the comments.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we'll leave you guys with that. I'll be back right here on Monday with Colin, and then we'll be back Monday night, third and long with Mike and Nathan here in studio. So got a lot to look forward to there. And yeah, Luke, we'll see you guys next week. And
of course,
that is all. So guys, please enjoy the weekend. Please be safe. If you aren't comfortable or aren't prepared to drive in the snow, please do not. And if you live elsewhere,
simple.
You're getting more snow than us probably. If you live north of here. Yeah. So enjoy that. But
stay safe.
Yes, please stay safe. Have a good weekend. and enjoy NFL Wildcard Weekend. We'll catch you guys later. Peace.
Peace.